The Namikaze bloodline had never produced twins before. As his wife and children were being attended to by Tsunade, who had taken the primary role in their delivery, Minato found himself restlessly pacing the room, awaiting news. He could still vividly recall what Gamabunta had told him and Jiraiya a few months prior, before he even knew they were expecting twins. Flashback. Gifted by the highest of hosts, your child will bring forth power never before seen by mortal eyes. The one loved by the gods and feared by demons shall bear power that may usher in a new age or the end of the world when the time for decision arrives. Only then will the world's fate hang in a balance for the first and last time. The Agama Sennin spoke, his voice echoing as Minato and Jiraiya stood before the elder of all Toad summons. Flashback ends. Since boys were not a rarity in his family line, Minato immediately considered that the other twin would be a female. He concluded then and there that his daughter was the one foretold by the Toads as the gifted by the highest of hosts. He told himself he would still love his son equally, but for the sake of the prophecy, Minato believed he needed to focus on his daughter to ensure she could face the coming foretold events. Tsunade emerged, looking as though she had single-handedly fought 1,000 rogue ninja, and offered a weary smile to Minato, Jiraiya, and Kakashi, who had been waiting for news. "Minato, you have 2 healthy children, a girl and a boy," she announced, gesturing for the men to follow. Kushina was asleep, and beside her bed was a large baby cot. All the men leaned in to see 2 sleeping infants. The baby boy had whisker marks on his cheeks, while the baby girl was unblemished. This solidified Minato's theory in his mind that his daughter was the chosen one. Unbeknownst to the yondaime and the villagers of Kanahagakure no Sato, the Toads were in a state of communion within the halls of the Elder Toads in Mt. Mayaboku. Gifted by the highest of hosts, your child will bring forth power never before seen by mortal eyes. The one loved by the gods and feared by demons shall bear power that may usher in a new age or the end of the world when the time for decision arrives. Only then will the world's fate hang in a balance for the first and last time. The words resonated throughout the hall, and everyone listened in solemn silence. The child born with the gifts of the highest of hosts has arrived. With him, he will bring about a new age or end the world when the time comes. Shima and Fukazaku exchanged worried glances. The boy will endure emotions no child should and will come to a divided path. There he will be faced with the decision of whether or not he wishes to save the world. His family, and those around him, will regret many things. He will be lost, and a hand will reach out to him, which he will take. The Agama Sennin spoke again but stopped, a look of concern clouding his face. The hour of the world's destruction has commenced. The chosen one will be tried and tested by the world, overlooked by the very people who surround him. The world's only hope is for his heart to know mercy, love, and forgiveness. The Sennin's tone turned grave. "Will the world be saved?" Shima asked, but no verbal answer was given. A decision was made even before the traces of gifts were manifested. "And thus, I can no longer see how the world will fare, as its chosen's light is already beginning to dim. When 11 summers have passed and his light is still dim, Jiraiya and Minato will be erased from the scroll of Toad Summoners, never to be forgiven or aided. It is by their actions that the world, as we know it, is heading for its doom," the Agama Sennin commanded, and all the Toads bowed. Gamabunta, Shima, and Fukazaku understood the unspoken command to never breathe a word of this to the summoners, or they would be punished. They hoped, however, that Minato and Jiraiya would recognize their downfall before their time expired. Raising the children had been made easier by the many people who helped Minato and Kushina. The yondaime had told his wife about the prophecy, and they agreed that they had to give their baby girl, their little Naruto, extra attention and training. To the people, they loved both children the same, but within the family, it was not hidden who was truly more cared for. By the age of 4, little Naruto had already realized that his sister was more loved and had more lavished on her than he did, and as much as Naruto wanted to complain about it, he did not. Growing up with Naruto had been a challenge for him. At the age of 3, he had asked to be moved to the attic, which Naruto had transformed into a bedroom with an adjoining library. It was more of a library than a bedroom. He rarely came down, and his parents rarely called on him after he had moved up and secluded himself from them. The only ones who truly cared for him were Uchiha Itachi, his younger brother, Suzuki, Abarame Shino, Nara Shikamaru, Heide Kakashi, Uzuki Yujeo, Marino Ibiki, Mitarashi Anko, Mato Gai, and Amino Irika. Suzuki disliked Naruto because she was friends with Yamanaka Ino and Harano Sakura, and all 3 girls were obsessive fangirls. He hated them with a passion. Shikamaru liked Naruto because they played shogi together, and Naruto would beat him in 5 out of 10 matches. Shino liked Naruto because the blonde boy had not shunned him for his bugs or for not having eyeballs, as the twin sister had put it. Naruto even went so far as to defend Shino to Naruto, who had huffed and left them alone instantly, muttering that losers would attract losers. Shino knew, as did Shikamaru and Suzuki, that Naruto was far stronger, greater, and more intelligent than he let on. Naruto was the exact opposite of Naruto: intelligent, patient, observant, cunning, a fast learner, a natural sensor, and an elemental who could bend all elements with his mere will. Naruto was loudmouthed, brash, the dead last of her class, rambunctious, and knew nothing but pranking, gossiping, and stalking. In class, Naruto was always flanked by Sasuke on his right, Shikamaru on his left, and Shino guarding their backs. Sasuke and Shino both connected because they hardly spoke, and if they did, it was about techniques and training. Shikamaru was the tactician of the group, lazy but with a high IQ like Naruto. Both played shogi every afternoon, and Naruto would challenge Shikamaru's mind, beating him every other game. Shino was their tracker, and with his bugs, nothing got within 15 feet of them without Shino knowing. Even if Naruto was a sensor with a 50-foot radius range, it didn't stop Shino from doing his part for the group. Sasuke was their kinjutsu and ninjutsu specialist. He had an affinity for lightning and fire, which he used from time to time when he sparred with Naruto, who could bend anything and everything around him. Naruto was the leader of their group. It didn't need to be said, but many of the others knew this to be a fact. The younger twin was far more talented and intelligent than the older twin, yet the children did not understand why it was the girl who was praised more than Naruto. They all remembered the sparring contest where the twins faced each other. Naruto had simply used taijutsu and slammed Naruto into a tree, cracking the tree with sheer force. Yet the yondaime and his wife fussed over the girl more, telling Naruto softly to be more gentle with his sister. The cold and expressionless look Naruto gave his so-called parents made the other children shiver in fear. Since then, they stayed away from Naruto's group and made sure never to side with his sister. Not long after the contest, Namikaze Naruto had teamed up with Yamanaka Ino, Harano Sakura, and, surprisingly, Inyazuka Kiba. The rest of the class knew why the Inyazuka hated Naruto. It was simple. Naruto was also everything Kiba was not. Kiba was just like Naruto, so it didn't surprise them for long, and they brushed it off as unimportant. Two classes had then clashed one day on the playground, and Hyuga Neji ended up crucified to a nearby tree when he decided to challenge Naruto to a spar. The teachers who watched were scared for the Hyuga when they saw the Namikaze boy's eyes turn freezing cold as he stood up. The match was one-sided and didn't even last 5 minutes. The Hyuga was taken to the hospital instantly as Naruto had somehow used a Hyuga paralyzing technique on Neji before crucifying him. The next week when Neji got out, he was seen with Naruto's group and had stuck to them like glue. Neji was another challenger that Naruto and Shikamaru welcomed when it came to shogi, Sasuke when it came to training, and Shino when it came to history and theoretical thinking and deduction. On the twins' 7th birthday, the couple had taken Naruto out to celebrate, completely forgetting Naruto, who watched them from his window as they left the mansion gates. He narrowed his eyes and went to his father's study, making sure to keep his chakra at 0 to leave no traces of him being there. He knew where his father kept the forbidden scroll and made a copy of its contents before retreating back to his domain, only to find Uchiha Itachi, Marino Ibiki, Mitarashi Anko, and Heite Kakashi waiting for him. Happy birthday, Naruto. Guy hasn't returned from his mission, but he already gave me his gift for you just in case he didn't make it back in time. And Irika is in town too. He's in charge of a booth set up by the academy officials. He sends his gift along as well, Kakashi greeted with his cheerful tone. Happy birthday, Gaki. Yujeo-chan is on patrol right now, but she sends her greetings and her gift. Anko beamed at the blonde child, showing the 2 wrapped gifts from her and Yujeo. Happy birthday, Naruto-kun. Ibiki also spoke. Happy birthday, Ruto-kun. Sasuke wanted to come, but his mother made him go with her to town. Shino-kun and Shikamaru-kun are in town as well, and Neji-kun is guarding Hyuga Hinata as the Hyuga clan roamed the village. They all asked us to give you their gifts and that they will see you tomorrow at school, Itachi explained as he placed the wrapped gifts on the table in Naruto's library/room. Kakashi brought a cake, Anko brought 3 bottles of the apple juice that Naruto loved, and Ibiki brought a bag of Naruto's favorite candy from Tsukigakur. The birthday boy gave them a rare smile that they had only seen a handful of times since they had known the child. Naruto simply never really smiled. And even if the others couldn't be there, he knew they wished they were, and that was enough for Naruto. They made him blow out the candles and ate a few pieces before they had to return for their evening patrol duty. Naruto thanked them and gave them a rare hug for their time and presence in his life. It was one of those treasures that both Umbu and the Takebutsu Jounin/T and I-Top interrogators kept close to their hearts. Naruto put the cake back into its box and went down to the kitchen to place it in the fridge so it wouldn't spoil. He returned to his room and began to study the techniques he had copied. He was a seal master despite his young age. Naruto could rival his father without breaking a sweat, and he himself had already created multiple seals that he used on a daily basis, right under his family's nose. The next day, Naruto entered the kitchen where his family had gathered. Naruto was about to slice the cake that was not for her when Naruto froze her where she stood. If you don't know how to read, the cake has my name on it. What gave you the right to touch what does not belong to you? Naruto asked coldly as he slid the cake away from his sister. Minato and Kushina looked deeply ashamed when they saw the words "Happy Birthday Naruto" on the cake. They had totally forgotten about him yesterday. And Naruto. Kushina called out but stopped when her son sent her a cold look. If you are going to apologize for forgetting me yesterday, don't bother. You haven't remembered me since I turned 3. What makes this year any different? Don't answer. I already know even if you don't say it, he remarked, closed the box, and left the kitchen and the house altogether. Noriko fell to the floor and whined that Naruto should be punished for freezing her. Minato and Kushina didn't hear it because they were both still in shock, as their own son felt more like a stranger than family. Minato tried to get into Naruto's room and was stunned to see how many books his child had. There was a bed near the window, a study table next to it, a table to eat for when he didn't join them downstairs, and the rest were shelves upon shelves of books. He roamed about and noticed that his son had books that didn't even seem like they came from the fire country. There were 3 shelves of scrolls near the window on the other side of the attic. Naruto had somehow torn down the walls to make use of the whole area and not just a part of it. When Minato tried to take a scroll, a lightning bolt zapped him, and he instantly pulled his hand back. He took a strand of his hair and threw it forward, only to watch it get fried to ashes. He went back to the study table and saw a large corkboard in front of it. It had a few photos on it, and an album was on the side. He was glad that the table wasn't rigged like the shelves. He pulled out the album and saw photos upon photos inside, and there was no trace of him, Kushina, and Noriko at all. There were photos of Naruto sleeping with Uchiha Sasuke, one where Naruto was playing shogi with the Nara heir. On another page was one of Naruto with the Abarame heir, showing his child being shown a bug that Naruto was holding on his palm, and the other photo was of his son and the Hyuga child sparring in a training field. Minato recognized somehow but couldn't pinpoint which one. As Minato flipped more pages, he started to feel worse when he saw that his boy had photos with his shinobi, and as far as Minato could see, they knew his son better than he did. On one side, Kakashi and Naruto were both wearing face masks that hid the lower part of their faces, while on the other side, the one with Ibiki, both wore the same blank bandana that Ibiki used to cover his head. On the next page, Guy and Naruto were wearing green spandex and posing around like Guy did, and on the other side of the album was one of Irika and Naruto, with a book in front of them. Irika looked like he was reading to Naruto. A few more pages, and Minato saw a photo of Itaki teaching Naruto how to hold a kunao and another photo showing Naruto and Uzuki Ujeo having cake with Gekko Hayate. Near the end, even Anko had a photo with Naruto, and both were wearing a trench coat that Anko always wore, and yet not a single one of the photos was with the family. Minato returned the album to its place and left his child's room, looking dark with shame, self-disappointment, and self-loathing. Kushina had just waved their daughter goodbye when she saw Minato enter the living room, looking as if he had killed someone he knew. "Minato? Is something wrong?" she asked as she sat next to her husband. The yondaime couldn't bring himself to look at his wife. "Do you know that we don't have any photos of Naruto as he grew up?" he asked her rhetorically. Kushina frowned. "Don't be silly, of course we have photos of Naruto growing up," she said as she stood up and went to the shelf to get the photo album they had. Minato didn't say anything as he just waited for his wife to realize he was right. He watched with a heavy heart as Kushina flipped from page to page, slowly at first before she began to quicken the pace, reaching the end of the album. Suddenly, Kushina felt her hands lose their strength, dropping the album on the floor and stumbling back to the armchair that was behind her. "WWE don't have ANEP photos of Naruto growing up, it's all Noriko." "Just Noriko," Kushina whispered as she tried to compose herself and not break down into pieces. Minato didn't have the strength to move and comfort his wife, as he himself was too busy trying to find any memory of him spending time with Naruto. He grew more and more frustrated as he thought and dug deeper into his mind. Nothing, not a single memory. What else didn't they know about their own son? Irika had sighed as he looked at the faces of the students. Sasuke, Shino, and Shikamaru looked closed off since Naruto had passed the jonin exams after his 6th birthday. He was proud that Naruto had come to him and asked if he could take the exam with Niji, and it made the Chuunin happier when his precious boy passed at the top of the class. He missed his Naruto, and it seemed that his friends missed him too. Noriko was just as noisy as ever, and it silently shocked him that the girl hadn't even noticed her twin brother was no longer there at first. When she did, she loudly proclaimed how happy she was that he wasn't there to embarrass her. Irika knew he shouldn't have thought it, but he couldn't help but feel it should have been the other way around. It should be Naruto who was embarrassed to have a sister like her. Shikamaru was no longer the dead last and did more in class, as he remembered that Naruto had made the Nara promise to do his best. Shino and Sasuke did their bests as well, and no one had ever penetrated their circle since Naruto had graduated. Sasuke had not even complained and knew that Naruto was far more superior than he was, but Naruto glared at him and said that he was just studious. Sasuke snorted at him but just smirked and nodded after congratulating his best friend. As far as he knew, Naruto was apprenticing with Marino Ibiki of the TNI department. How that got past the Hokage, Irika didn't bother to ponder. The yondaime Hokage, despite being a good leader and a strong presence in the village, was not as observant as he appeared. A paper trail of neglect. He witnessed it firsthand during his 1-week stint as the yondaime's temporary secretary, subbing in for the sick original. The way the man handled paperwork. He didn't really read them thoroughly as he should, despite being instructed to read the papers and stack them according to importance. Kakashi had revealed that the secretary, who held a fondness for Naruto, had placed Ibuki's request to have Naruto as his apprentice at the very top. This was so the yondaime would simply stamp and sign it without a second glance. It was also explained to Iruka how Ibuki managed to secure Naruto as his apprentice when Anko, Hayate, Ujeo, Itaki, and even Kakashi himself had wanted Naruto for that very role. Kakashi and Itaka's intention, along with Ujeo and Hayate's, was to fast-track Naruto into the Umbu. Ultimately, it was a series of bets that Ibuki had won, leaving the others groaning. Iruka had choked at the news initially, but his single week in the office proved how truly irresponsible Namikaze Minato could be, especially when his daughter visited the tower. Less than a year later, Chigusa made the same mistake, and the yondaime had authorized Ibuki's request for Naruto to take the Chunin exams in Kusagakure. It pained Iruka that his own family didn't even notice his absence for nearly 2 full months. Naruto passed, and 6 months later, Iruka personally helped to slip the request for Naruto to take the jonin exams. Once again, Naruto had made them all proud, emerging as the top contender. All the while, his biological family remained oblivious to his many accomplishments. Instead, they were preoccupied with consoling their daughter, who possessed little to no ability or talent. Almost 5 years later, Iruka had just finished filing the papers for the new academy graduates and was waiting for the yondaime to sort them into their teams. Suzuki, Shino, and Shikamaru had claimed the top 3 spots, with Sakura placing 4th. Iruka was not surprised to see Noriko's name listed in last place, yet still passing the tests and making genin. He was about to enter the Hokage's office when the jonins called out to him. "Yo, Iruka." Kakashi greeted him, and he smiled back. "Kakashi, team placements again? Are you going to pass this team or fail them again?" he joked, and a few chuckled as Kakashi smirked from under his mask. "It depends on the members of the team and if they pass my test," he answered. Asuma, Kurone, Guy, Genma, Hayate, Kakashi, and Iruka entered the office, and the jonins took their seats before the Hokage while Iruka stood by the yondaime, his clipboard ready in hand. "All right, I have sorted out the students who passed and picked who will be the team sensei will be. Team 10 or the Inoshikacho team is composed of Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, and Akimichi Cho. Asuma, I want you to handle them. If the Nara is as great as his father, he will be a challenge for you." Minato began. Kakashi, Iruka, Guy, Genma, and Hayate discreetly raised their brows at the mention of Shikamaru. Of course, the boy was destined for greatness beyond his father. They had all been there when Naruto made the Nara promise to surpass even Nara Shikaku. Next, Team 11, Hyagan Niji, Rock Lee, and Imemori Tenten. Guy, Rock Lee is a taijutsu specialist like yourself. Hyagan Niji is a genius as well. The girl is a weapons specialist. I'm sure you'll be able to handle them. Minato addressed the spandex-wearing jonin. Kakashi instantly gagged Guy, who was about to yell something, and the others sighed in relief. Moving on, Kurone, I want you as teammates jonin sensei. You have Hyaga Hinata, Abarame Shino, and Inyazuka Kiba. Minato said, noting the stiffened expressions of his jonins. Is something wrong? Kurone asked the others, and the jonins turned to Iruka for an explanation. Kurone-san, Inyazuka Kiba and Abarame Shino are not on the best of terms. While Shino will not outright retaliate if Kiba attacks or yells, it has been noted that Kiba had been beaten by Shino time and again during their academy days. You will be playing Peacemaker as Hyaga Hinata is quite shy and a wallflower. Iruka explained, and the others nodded. Thank you for the information, Omino-san. I will remember it. She thanked him and bowed as Iruka bowed back. Now that we've covered that, this year we have more girls than boys, so Team 7 will have 2 females and 1 male, Harano Sakura, Uchiha Suzuki, and Namikaze Noriko. Kakashi, I want you as their jonin. When Suzuki activates his Sharingan, you will be able to help him along with his clan to control it, he said as he thought of Itake not being able to do it since the young man was away on assignments most of the time. Hayate and Genma were relieved that they didn't have to take on teams this time, as their own had already moved up to Chinins. Kakashi, Iruka, and Guy, however, looked a bit troubled. What's wrong this time, Kakashi? Asuma spoke up. The group stared at Kakashi, who stared at the yondaime. Uchiha Suzuki will kill you when he finds out you placed him with Harano and your stalker of a daughter, Kakashi told the Hokage flat out, who looked shocked. He knew his daughter fancied the younger Uchiha heir, but he didn't realize she was stalking the poor boy. The yondaime pondered for a bit and frowned further. Is something wrong, Hokage-sama? Hayate inquired for the whole group. As far as I remember, my son Naruto was in the same class as Noriko, Abarame Shino, Nara Shikamaru, and Uchiha Suzuki, but I did not see his name on the list of those that graduated this year. Umino-kun, did he fail? Minato asked, and the others, except Kurone and Asuma, gasped in shock. Of course not, Hokage-sama. The reason why Naruto-kun is not on this list is because he already graduated long before. He had not been placed into a team because he was taken as an apprentice immediately, Irika informed the man, pride in his tone. However, Minato was shocked as he listened. Naruto had already graduated. When? Who had requested him as an apprentice? And why had he not noticed? When did Naruto graduate, Umino-kun? Minato inquired. He graduated just after he turned 6, Hokage-sama. Then Marino Ibiki had requested him as an apprentice. Not a year later, he moved up to Chunin as he was the only one who had remained during the Kusagakure Chunin exams. And 6 months later, he moved up again and is now a jonin. Irika said, his smirk now killed, appearing neutral and expressionless. Kakashi, Guy, Genma, and Hayate, on the other hand, were all smiles. What? You mean to say that my son has been a jonin for nearly 5 years and I am just hearing this now? Minato said as he broke from his shock and disbelief. That can't be right, Hokage-sama. You yourself had approved of them, signed them, and all files had your stamp on them. It must have happened during Chigasa-san's time since I was still a teacher's aide when Naruto graduated from the academy. Irika said, mentally apologizing to Chigasa's soul. The woman had died during childbirth along with her child. Her husband was a jonin who died 3 months later during his rounds near the Kirigakure border. The jonins watched as their yandame Hokage tried to catch his breath. Namikaze Naruto, his son, was just about to turn 11 in 3 months. And yet he was already a jonin. How could he have missed it? There must have been some mistake. Umino-kun, please give me the files of Namikaze Naruto, he said calmly, and the Chunin left instantly. He shoes-hined to the archives, grabbed the file, and returned to the office less than 3 minutes later. Minato saw for himself the list of his son's achievements, 12 D ranks, 15 C ranks, 27 A ranks, and 10 S ranks. He shuffled through the file and saw the Chunin exam report stating his son was the only one remaining, thus passing the tests hands down. On another paper, the Jonin exams report showed that Naruto had excelled in the exams and was the only one left, just like his Chunin exam. He dropped the papers on the table, looking utterly floored. Tenzo, bring Marino Ibiki and Namikaze Naruto here immediately, Minato commanded after what seemed like an eternity. The Jonin shifted, but Irika remained passive. He was cackling mentally as he had been there to support Naruto when he came home from the exams. He had been there when Naruto struggled to study and learn ninja techniques and elemental control. Irika had been there when Naruto broke down after his first C-rank mission where he had killed a bandit who attacked them. He, along with Anko, Ibiki, Kakashi, Yujeo, Hayate, Guy, and Itaki, had been there for Naruto. Even Suzuki, Shino, and Shikamaru had comforted the blonde when he had broken down a second time after his first S-rank mission that almost killed him. 10 minutes later, a knock on the door broke the office's silence. Come in, Minato spoke, and his eyes widened in shock when his son, who now had the same hair length as himself, came in wearing a jonin vest and his hitayate held his blonde hair back from his face, which was half covered with a mask like Kakashi's. However, what caught his attention most was his son's freezing cold eyes. You called for us, Hokage-sama? Ibiki inquired as he stood next to Naruto. Ibiki, you requested Naruto's apprenticeship, his pass for the Chunin exam, and the Jonin exams, correct? Minato asked him back. Hi, Hokage-sama. I filed them all through the proper channels and got them approved by you 3 days after. Is something wrong? Ibiki inquired once more. It was no secret to them that the yandame overlooked Naruto. And now that this revelation had surfaced, the man was either in denial, going to yell for not being told, even though the files had his stamp and signature, or declare that Naruto was not fit for his rank. If that happened, Ibiki would resign as a shinobi immediately. Minato turned from the man to his son, who stared at him with cold and expressionless eyes, making Minato shiver inside. Naruto, why did you never tell us about you making jonin, let alone passing the genin exams and the chunin exams? Minato asked with a pained expression. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, I didn't see the need to tell you as you approved the requests. Surely you had read through them before signing them and placing your stamp on it as final approval. Naruto asked with the same cold voice, and Minato knew his son had more to say but didn't for some reason. May I ask why you didn't proceed to request to join Umbu? I would have, had the TNI department not been short on staff. With just Ibiki-san and Anko-san, they have very few shinobis to work the department. Naruto answered once more, and Minato sighed. Everyone except Naruto are dismissed. Team and jonin placements are done, Minato commanded, and the others filed out. Kakashi, Hayate, Guy, Genma, Ibiki, and Irika patted Naruto's head before leaving. When the door was closed, Minato sealed the room into silence. Naruto, why didn't Minato began, but Naruto cut him off. I tell you? For what reason should I when you never showed any interest in whatever I did? You actually had your chance after my 6th birthday. I know you went to the attic and saw the photo album on my study table, but neither you nor your wife did anything to change our situation. Your daughter only got worse after and she has little to no intelligence and talent compared to me. Did you know that people often wondered how I am related to her when she cannot even be on the same level as I when it came to performance and talent? Naruto taunted his father, who felt worse and worse as Naruto verbally slapped him with the truth. If you only cared to look, you would probably have noticed that you know nothing about me. It's your shinobis who have been there for me. Irika-sensei was the one who comforted me when I came back from my first C-rank mission when I had my first kill, a group of bandits who were in the way as we passed by bird country. It was Itake who taught me how to properly hold a kunao and shurikens. It was Hayate and Yujeo who taught me how to use a sword and blades. Guy taught me taijutsu. Anko and Ibiki taught me ways to interrogate prisoners without even having to touch them. Did you know that Niji, Suzuki, Shino, and Shikamaru were the ones to hold me when I came back from my first S-rank mission? I nearly died then when Ibiki and Hayate were surrounded and I was facing 3 nins who had a Kekai Genkai that we didn't read on the report. Naruto continued to tell him, and Minato was already crying in silence as his mind processed how much he had missed in his son's life. Those people saw me at my best and worst. And all those times, you and your wife were doting on your daughter, who would never amount to anything because she knows nothing and passing the academy was a mere fluke. She's the dead last of her batch while I topped mine. Naruto pointed out once more and took a deep breath. If there isn't anything else, I will return to my duty now, Hokage-sama, Naruto said and narrowed his eyes. Minato managed to shake his head, and before he could even unseal the room, his son shattered the seal he placed and opened the door. Oh, by the way, I'm a seal master as well as an elementalist too. You should read my file as I am sure every ability I have is in there. I think I'm in the bingo book as well, he said as he left the office and closed the door behind him. Minato stared at the empty space in his office then back to the door his son had just exited. It took nearly half an hour before Minato moved to read the file that was on his desk, and sure enough, everything was there. Naruto excelled in taijutsu, genjutsu, ninjutsu, and kinjutsu. He was a seal master as well, and from how he easily broke his seal, Minato was sure his son was on the same level, if not better than him. Naruto's affinities were wind, water, earth, fire, and lightning. He would have felt so proud of all the achievements if he didn't feel so horrible for abandoning his son when he needed him growing up. Lastly, Minato pulled out a copy of the bingo book and searched for his son's name. Bingo book entry number 100,390. Name: Namikaze Maelstrom Naruto. Age: unknown. Affiliation: Konoha. Rank: high Chunin to high jonin. Threat level: high A to low S level. Description: long yellow hair, ice-cold blue eyes, the lower half of his face covered by a mask, around 5 feet in height, elementalist, can bend all 5 elements, excels in taijutsu, genjutsu, ninjutsu, and kinjutsu. Killed 30 Kirigakure nins, hunter and jonins, and nearly 100 Otogakure nins, shinins, jonins, and hunter nins. Bounty: 10 million ryo, kiri, oto. Condition: approach with caution. To be brought back, dead or alive. Oto: to be brought back alive. Kiri. Minato closed the book and suddenly felt so tired, as if he had been running for months. Naruto's words and taunts about him not knowing anything about his own son came back to his mind. He could even hear his son's voice clearly. The whole afternoon was spent in his office, trying to mentally crucify himself and repeating in his mind how much of a failure he was as a father to his own flesh and blood. He gathered the papers and left his office. It was better to show Kushina the file than explain. Minato didn't have the energy to even speak anymore. He just felt so tired and disappointed in himself for everything he had not done for his son, who was a spitting image of himself at that age. The trip home seemed to take forever, and he saw the light on in his son's room and the silhouette that indicated his son was indeed in his room, moving about. He couldn't face his son, not after what had just happened in his office. Minato just didn't have the courage anymore, and he was sure Kushina would break down once more. As he entered their home, he could already hear his wife and daughter's voices. He stayed by the door, listening to his daughter recount her day and what she had done. Nothing of importance, from what Minato could gather. Gossiping with the Harano and Yamanaka girls, looking at clothing shops, and talking about Uchiha Suzuki. Something told Minato that placing his daughter on the same team as the boy was going to shorten his life by half. Did you know that people often wondered how I am related to her when she cannot even be on the same level as I when it came to performance and talent? Naruto's voice popped into his head once more, making Minato flinch in pain. He finally found the strength to move and enter the kitchen silently. He remembered yesterday evening when Naruto came home, yelling at the top of her lungs, that she had passed the academy test. If only he hadn't been so focused on her, he would have wondered why Naruto hadn't spoken to them about his passing. His spirit crumpled, a heavy weight settling on his mind. He hadn't spoken to his son since the day after the twins' 6th birthday, a day marked by Naruto freezing Naruto the instant he'd entered the kitchen, only to unfreeze her the moment he left. A sign Minato should have understood, but didn't. Before he could speak, his wife and daughter noticed him, their expression shifting to concern. Minato. Kushina's voice was soft. Is something wrong, Daddy? Naruto asked, sliding off her stool and moving toward him. Princess, could you go to your room for a moment? Your mother and I need to talk, Minato requested with a sigh. Though she didn't understand, Naruto nodded and left the kitchen, but she didn't go to her room as instructed. Instead, she hid by the door, hoping to overhear their conversation. To her frustration, her father sealed the kitchen, making it impossible to hear anything. Naruto was certain the seal was meant to keep anyone from getting in or out. Inside, Minato quietly handed Kushina their son's file and sat at the head of the table. He waited for her reaction, watching as Kushina was once again overcome by shock, disbelief, and tears. He pondered all the milestones they had missed in their son's life. They weren't there to celebrate his academy graduation or his passing of the jonin and jonin exams. They weren't there to commend his abilities and skills, or to comfort him after his first kill on a mission. They weren't there to support him when he nearly died in the line of duty. Minato realized he should have known all of this if he had only read the reports thoroughly. He had relied too heavily on verbal briefings and had neglected the written ones after his shinobi left his office. How could we have missed all this, Minato? Kushina's words were broken by sobs. Minato had no answer. He couldn't, as he was lost in his own questions. His son had faced him with such a cold distance. Naruto had stood before him not as a son, but merely as a jounin of Konoha before his Hokage. He tried to remember the last time his son had called him daddy or Kushina mommy. The last time they had eaten dinner together? The last time Naruto had asked for anything? The last time he had shared details about his day? But for Minato, the most important question was when had he last seen his son smile at him? Minato, is there any way to fix this? Our son Kushina's voice was cut off, and Minato's thoughts were broken by a presence entering the kitchen without breaking the seal. You lost your son 5 years ago. I'm here to let you know I'm moving out. I finished packing my books and will be leaving now, Naruto said, his voice cold before he turned to leave. Minato broke the seal and followed his son, with Kushina close behind. He saw his daughter staring in disbelief at her twin brother, who was wearing his jounin vest and Hitai-8, with a box in his hands. Naruto, please don't go. Give us a chance to fix things, Kushina pleaded, grabbing his arm to stop him. Naruto looked at her, his eyes dead. You don't even know what needs fixing. Besides, I already said you lost your son 5 years ago. There's nothing left to fix. Why don't you just keep doting on your daughter like you've been doing all these years? If you'd like, I can even request a name change. That way, you'll officially no longer have a son. You never remembered you had one anyway. This would just make it official, Naruto said with a smirk that made even Minato shiver. Kushina was crying as Naruto pulled his arm away. Minato's mind raced, trying to find something to say. His 10-year-old son was moving out. Jounin Namikaze Naruto. As your Yandame Hokage, I command you to stop, Minato yelled, causing Naruto to turn and glare at him. You'd stoop so low as to use your position to stop me? I'm not surprised, that's the only thing you are to me. You are my Hokage and nothing more, he taunted Minato, who now looked ashamed. Naruto turned to face the man, completely ignoring Kushina's sobs. As you command, Yandame-sama. What can I do for you? Naruto asked, setting his box down and dropping to one knee as Umbu, Jounin, and Choyunin often did. Minato struggled not to break as he looked at his son on bended knee. Naruto was right, Minato was nothing more than his Hokage. Stay. I command you to stay. That is an order, Minato said, his voice tight, not knowing what else to do. Naruto remained still for a moment, then spoke with the coldest tone Minato had ever heard. As you wish, Yandame Hokage-sama. Naruto stood, picked up his box, and returned to the attic, which was once again his room. He left behind a speechless Naruto, a crying Kushina, and a defeated Minato. That evening passed in silence. Minato had ordered Naruto to have dinner with them. His son came down wearing his vest, his Hitai-8 on his head, and his mask still in place. Now that he saw his son, he wondered when he had started wearing a mask like Kakashi. Kushina wanted to make all of Naruto's favorite dishes, but when she got to the kitchen, she realized she didn't know what they were. The reality of her ignorance hit her. She didn't know a single thing about her son. What was his favorite color? Did he like a particular sweet? Did he prefer orange juice or milk? The more questions that arose, the more depressed she became, as she had no answer to any of them. Naruto hadn't said a word. She had watched her brother try to leave, only to be stopped by their father's command. What was happening? And what was in that file on the floor before her father picked it up? She couldn't see or read a single page. And why was Naruto wearing a jounin vest and a Hitai-8? She had thought he had dropped out of school when he stopped attending classes after their 6th birthday, yet here he was, wearing a jounin vest. When they were called for dinner, Naruto heard her father order her brother to join them, and he came down wearing his vest, his Hitai-8, and a mask. When had that started? As they all sat down, the dining room was thick with tension, though to Naruto, her brother seemed completely detached. Let's eat, Minato said softly, breaking the silence. Naruto, would you like to try the fish curry? Kushina asked. I'm allergic to seafood, he replied, and Kushina gasped. Oh, I'm so sorry, Naruto. I didn't know. How about the chicken roll instead, she said, trying not to cry as she passed the plate, which her son silently accepted. Minato swallowed hard. He was allergic to seafood too, it made him swell up and turn red. His son was just like him in that way. He felt a small, inward smile. Naruto tried not to react, glancing at her brother who seemed more like a stranger than her twin. Aren't you going to take off the mask? How will you eat? She asked, getting a raised brow in return. Naruto simply lifted his chopsticks and ate as if the mask wasn't there at all. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. How was he doing that? Minato and Kushina were all too familiar with the technique, as Kakashi did the same thing. When did you start wearing a mask? Naruto asked again. After my first A-rank mission, when Hunter Nins from the Hidden Mist heard about Ibiki-sensei and Anko-sensei's newly promoted jonin apprentice, he answered, shocking Naruto. Her brother really was a jonin, and he was already taking A-rank missions. Since when were you a jonin? Naruto was losing her patience. Since I turned 7. I passed the academy when I was 6. I passed the Chuunin exams after I turned 7, then the Jounin exams 6 months later, he said, dismissing her rising anger. Minato and Kushina were mentally taking notes of their son's answers. What? How can that be? You dropped out. You stopped going to school. Naruto finally burst. Dropped out? I stopped attending the academy because I had already passed the tests. Marino Ibiki from the TNI department requested me as his apprentice and trained me personally. He then requested for me to take the Chuunin exams, and the Jounin exams 6 months later. You would have known all this if you weren't so busy stalking Suzuki, gossiping with the Mind Invader, and the abnormally pink-haired girl with the large forehead in SPD, Naruto told her coldly, instantly extinguishing her temper as his icy eyes fixed on her. Naruto had never seen her brother angry before. In fact, she hadn't really seen him since he'd left the academy. And to think they lived in the same house. Then, Naruto's words echoed in her mind. I do not stalk Suzuki-kun. And don't call Ino and Sakura weird names, she yelled, but he simply raised an eyebrow. You do, and you know it. Inu, Weasel, and Karasu know you stalk him. The Yamanaka are mind invaders because they can enter an enemy's mind during interrogation. And Harano has an abnormally large forehead and SPD. If you were to ask your mind invader friend to enter Harano's mind, you'd find out I'm telling the truth, he told her, and her face turned red. The Umbu knew. What in the world did they know? And what was SPD? Minato and Kushina would have laughed at the back and forth if the situation were less tense. And that look on your face shows you know nothing. SPD stands for split personality disorder. From what I've observed when I see the three of you, she doesn't have MPD, which is much harder to cure. And just in case you don't know what that means either, it's multiple personality disorder, Naruto said, his passive tone infuriating Naruto. Naruto felt more and more like an idiot in front of her parents the more she questioned her brother. She didn't know if it was a good idea to keep asking questions, but her curiosity won out. What was on the files that Daddy brought home and showed Mommy? Naruto asked, and the whole table froze. Naruto looked at Naruto, then at his parents. I'm not sure. Either it was my file containing everything about me, or something else. Why don't you ask the Hokage himself? Naruto challenged her, knowing she would fall for it. Daddy, what was on those papers? Naruto asked, and Naruto smirked behind his mask before resuming his meal. Well, you see, Naruto, those papers were. Minato began to sweat. How was he supposed to tell his daughter that it was her brother's file, detailing all his achievements, mission lists, abilities, and skills? Naruto, on the other hand, was amused to see the man squirm over a simple question. Did Minato fear his daughter's reaction when she found out how different they truly were? Would Naruto finally see that she was nothing compared to him? Whatever the reason, Naruto didn't care. Naruto, they were about Naruto's previous missions and reports, Minato said in a low voice. Naruto looked confused. If they were mission reports, why did their father have to show their mother? She would have pressed for more, but a knock at the door interrupted them. Kushina immediately stood and went to the door, wondering who would visit so late. She opened it to find Kakashi, Iruka, and Ibiki standing outside. Oh, Kakashi-kun, Ibiki-san, Omino-kun. What can I do for you three? She asked. Good evening, Kushina-sama. We were just wondering if Naruto is here. He was supposed to meet us 2 hours ago, Ibiki said on behalf of the group. Before Kushina could say anything, Naruto came to the door. Gamanase, Ibiki Teiko, Kakashi-senpai, Iruka-senpai. The yandame ordered me to stay just as I was about to leave. I forgot to send a message to inform you that I can no longer move in with you, Iruka-senpai, Naruto said with a bow. Kushina was surprised. Naruto was going to move in with Iruka? Before she could speak, Minato came to the door. Good evening, Hokage-sama. We sincerely apologize for disturbing your dinner. We were just worried when Naruto-kun didn't show up earlier, Irika said. Minato looked torn between anger and hurt. Angry that his son was moving in with his secretary, and hurt that his son had chosen to leave them. My son won't be moving out. He has no reason to. He's still only 10 years old, Minato said, a weak excuse. My apologies, Yandame-sama, but may I remind you that I'm considered an adult, as I've been a jonin for the past 4 years? I could have moved out long ago, and you wouldn't have even noticed if I hadn't told you just now, Naruto stated bluntly, and Kushina choked back a sob. She didn't want to cry in front of these men. Ibiki nodded. Then we'll take our leave, Hokage-sama. He then turned to Naruto. We'll see you tomorrow, Naruto-kun. Hi, Ibiki Teiko, Naruto replied, nodding to Kakashi and Irika, who followed Ibiki down the path and out of the Namikaze compound. The three went back inside, and Naruto headed for his room, but Kushina called out to him. Naruto, would you really have moved out and left your family if your father hadn't ordered you to? Kushina asked, hoping for a calming answer. The look on his face and the coldness in his eyes said otherwise. Family? We are no such thing. However, he is my Hokage, I would not dare disobey his order. Good evening to you both, Hokage-sama. Kushina-sama, he answered, leaving to the sound of the woman who was once his mother falling to the floor and crying once more. He did not see the man who was once his father silently weep as they both watched him walk away, realizing that what he said was true, they were not a family. They never had been one to him. Noriko was in a foul mood as she entered the classroom for team placements. Less than 24 hours ago, she had discovered that her twin brother was not a dropout as she'd thought, but a jounin. She was so preoccupied with her thoughts that she didn't even notice her friends calling her name. Noriko, you look like you didn't sleep at all. I know you're excited, but looking like a zombie won't impress Suzuki-kun, Ino teased, and Sakura giggled. Noriko looked at them for a moment, then sighed and pushed the classroom door open. The first thing she saw was Suzuki, Shino, Shikamaru, and Niji sitting together, as they always did. Shikamaru was talking to Niji about something while Suzuki watched Shino command his bugs. Suzuki looked impressed and said something to Shino, who nodded in return. This made Noriko wonder if they knew about Naruto's jounin status. Then, for some strange reason, all four of them stopped talking and looked at her. A shiver ran down her spine, and she felt embarrassed when Suzuki and Niji smirked at her. Why are they looking at you like that? Sakura asked, poking Noriko. How should I know? Noriko replied, moving to sit on the table in front of the boys, with Sakura and Ino beside her. The other two girls kept giggling while Noriko was deep in thought, wondering if she should ask them. Eventually, her curiosity got the best of her, and she turned to find the four of them still looking directly at her. You couldn't be any more obvious than you are right now, Namikaze, Suzuki taunted, a smirk on his face. And as for your unspoken question, the answer is yes. We are his best friends. Did you truly think we didn't know? Niji said in a condescending tone that made her blush with embarrassment. Sakura and Ino were confused, but before either could ask, the classroom door opened, and in walked the source of her current mood and frustration, her twin brother. Drop out? What are you doing here? And why do you have that jounin vest? Don't tell me you stole it. Kiba taunted the moment Naruto walked in. Naruto simply raised an eyebrow and ignored him. Good morning. Irika-senpai couldn't be here to announce your team placements, he's currently assisting the Yandame Hokage with a matter. And if any of you are wondering where your Mizuki-sensei is, his body is being examined by the medical ninjas in TNI for information. He attempted to steal the Forbidden Scroll last night but was captured and killed by Umbu. Naruto informed them, silencing the entire room. Now, for team placements, I will read the teams, their members, and their jounin sensei. Starting with Team 11, Amemurai Tenten, Kyoga Niji, and Rock Lee. Your jounin sensei will be Mato Gai, Naruto said with a smirk, and Niji groaned, slamming his head on the table. Next, Team 10, Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, and Akimichi Chuji, the newest Inoshikacho team. Your jounin sensei will be Sarutobi Asuma, Naruto continued, and Shikamaru groaned as well. He knew it would be them, but a small bit of hope had appeared when he topped the exams. Team 8, Inyazuka Kiba, Hyoga Hinata, and Abarame Shino. Your jounin sensei is Ui Kurane, Naruto said as he saw Shino and his bugs emerge from his coat. His friend was not pleased. Genin Abarame, control your bugs. If you wish to file a complaint, do so at the tower, Naruto told him, and Shino nodded. Kiba raised an eyebrow when Naruto addressed Shino as Genin. Hey, drop out, why did you call Shino Genin Abarame? You sound like you have authority. Drop out. Kiba's big mouth was about to get him into trouble. Besides, you can't possibly be better than me or your sister. We graduated, while you quit, Kiba went on, not seeing the smirk on Naruto's face. But Noriko saw it, and she was worried her brother would punish Kiba for running his mouth. Kiba, shut up before you say too much, Noriko said, which made everyone in the room look at her, including a very amused Naruto. What's the dropout going to do? He can't hurt me. I'm a genin now, Kiba said confidently, and Noriko groaned. Genin Inyazuka, you had better listen to the warning from Genin Namikaze, or you might find yourself inside the TNI interrogation and torture chamber, Naruto warned him coldly, which made Akamaru run to Naruto and whine about his master's stupidity. Naruto looked down at Akamaru and scooped him up. I've already warned him, Akamaru. If he mouths off one more time, I'll have to pull rank and have him disciplined to make sure he learns, Naruto told Akamaru, who barked and then turned to growl at Kiba. Shut the fuck up before you get yourself killed. I won't even fight for you if you keep mouthing off to him. Akamaru barked at Kiba, who looked confused and a little angry that his own companion was betraying him. Akamaru, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you so worried? As if that dropout could do anything to me. Kiba spoke, missing Naruto's quiet groan and the subtle smirks on Naruto's friends' faces. With 3 hand seals, Kiba was instantly bound where he sat, his eyes wide in horror as he found himself unable to move. I told you to shut the hell up, didn't I? Akamaru barked in a worried tone, watching Kiba struggle against the unseen bindings. Naruto was now certain that Naruto wouldn't let Kiba's disrespect slide, especially after being warned already. Dog breath. You better apologize to him before he drags you to the TNI, Naruto shouted, Kiba's head whipping around to stare at her. Just do it, please, Naruto begged, knowing that if Naruto could break their parents, Kiba wouldn't last 5 minutes against him. Why the hell would I do that? Kiba yelled back, angry and confused by their strange behavior. God damn it, Inyazuka. If you don't want to be permanently. Naruto's outburst was cut short when the door opened to reveal Sarutobi Asuma. Oh, Jounin Namikaze, you're still here? Are the team placements done yet, or was I a bit too early? Asuma asked with a look of embarrassment. Asuma-senpai, I was about to announce the last team when Genin Inyazuka kept interrupting and then went on to question and insult me. I had to restrain him and was about to continue when Genin Namikaze and Akamaru begged for his release. Then you came in, Naruto explained. The older Jounin's eyes narrowed on the bound boy, whose own eyes widened in shock. Kiba was baffled. Had he heard correctly? Did the man just call Naruto Jounin? Was that why Akamaru and Naruto were so worried? But before he could say a word, a black-haired woman with red eyes pushed her way into the room. Good morning, Kurane-senpai. Here to pick up your team, Naruto inquired. The woman smiled, nodding in response. Team placements are almost finished. I just need to read the last team, and you can take your students. However, I must emphasize that one of your genin will be punished for questioning and insulting me. I had to use my rank to deal with it, as letting it slide would have damaged my reputation, Naruto informed her. And who is this genin who's done such a thing, Jounin Namikaze? Kurane asked coldly, her gaze sweeping over the children before settling on the bound Inyazuka. It's that Inyazuka brat we heard about, Kurane. He mouthed off and got himself bound, Asuma stated, moving to stand behind Naruto, whose eyes were full of amusement. Kurane sighed. They weren't even an official team yet, and her genin was already facing punishment. Jounin Namikaze, will you allow me to punish him myself? I guarantee he won't repeat his actions afterward, she said, causing Kiba's eyes to widen even further. See, now you're in trouble. Just wait until we get home and your mom finds out, Akamaru said, dropping his head as he sat down. Very well, Kurane-senpai. I trust your genin will not make the same mistake again, because I won't be as lenient next time, he told her, and a shiver of fear ran down Kiba's spine. Thank your gods and deities, Genin Inyazuka. If your jounin hadn't stepped up, I would have dealt with your punishment myself, Naruto said, turning back to the rest of the class. And finally, Team 7. Naruto smirked, making his friends wonder what was going on. Harano Sakura, Namikaze Naruto, and Uchiha Sasuke. Your jounin sensei will be Heite Kakashi, Naruto announced, looking at his friend who looked ready to kill someone. What? Sasuke yelled, while the pink-haired girl cheered. Did you hear that, Naruto? We're on Sasuke-kun's team, she said, shaking Naruto. God damn it. Why couldn't I get the better twin? Jounin Namikaze, where do I file to change my team? Sasuke asked, addressing his friend formally since they were in the presence of 2 other jounin and Naruto was on duty. You can file for it at the tower's placement office, Genin Uchiha, Naruto replied, amusement lacing his voice. Team change requests can be filed 72 hours after your jounin submit their team lists at the tower. For those whose jounin are not here yet, please wait. Have a good day, Naruto said, then walked out, the door closing and breaking the bind on Kiba, who instantly fell to the floor. God damn it, dog breath. You should really thank Kami your jounin sensei saved you. If she hadn't, my twin brother would have broken you in under 5 minutes. He's a jounin and a member of the torture and interrogation department. Next time Akamaru warns you, you'd better listen. Just pray that Naruto doesn't report this to the Hokage, or legal action will still be taken even if your jounin sensei punishes you, Naruto told him, and Kiba went white as a ghost. Sasuke was still annoyed, as were Shikamaru and Niji. Shino stood up to walk toward his jounin sensei but turned to his friend once more. Don't worry, Sasuke. If Inyazuka isn't alive at the end of the week, you'll probably be placed on our team to cover the loss, Shino said, then faced his sensei and bowed. Hinata also stood and bowed next to Shino. Akamara whined at Hinata's feet, and she scooped the puppy into her arms, knowing the dog believed Kiba would be punished by the lady. Follow me, Kurane said, grabbing Kiba's jacket and leaving the classroom. Well, Team 10, please follow me as well. And let this be a lesson to the three of you, know who is higher in rank than you, and you'll live to see another morning, Asuma told them. Ino and Chuji nodded, while Shikamaru yawned. Asuma looked at the Nara, assessing him with a single glance. Naruto has high expectations for you, Shikamaru-kun. That goes for you too as well, Uchiha-kun, Hyuga-kun, and the Abarame heir, Asuma said, turning to the other two before leaving the room with his genin following. Sakura turned to Naruto for confirmation, which irritated Naruto to no end. Yes, Sakura, Naruto is a jonin. For being called the smartest kunoichi of our batch, you're awfully slow to catch on. Yes, Naruto wasn't a dropout. He's been a jounin since he was 7 and has been doing S-rank missions while we were stuck here learning history and throwing kuno at trees. Is there anything else you want to know? Naruto said angrily, and her friend shrunk in her seat. When did you find out your twin was a jounin, Namikaze? Niji asked the girl, who turned to face him and Suzuki. Last night when he broke our parents and made them cry for hours. And I don't even need to ask when you guys found out. I'm sure you've known from the beginning and kept it a secret, Naruto said, narrowing her eyes at them. Of course we've known all along. It was always amusing when you kept calling Naruto a dropout when he was already a jounin and you were the exact opposite. Dead last, Suzuki sneered at her. Naruto shattered the yondaime? I thought he'd never do that, he must have been triggered by something, Niji told Suzuki, who nodded. The passiveness angered Naruto. And you think what he did was okay? Is that what you're saying? Naruto yelled at them, but they just glared back. And you think being ignored and forgotten is okay too? Even now, we still don't understand why you were favored when you barely passed, while Naruto was clearly the better twin, smarter, more talented, skilled, patient, and observant. His observant nature can be annoying, but he's just that good, while you, well, you're just you, Suzuki pointed out, a verbal slap to Naruto. Naruto should be ashamed of you instead. His older twin sister is a dead last with zero talent or skills, Niji added, twisting the knife in Naruto's wound. She sat quietly, ignoring the rest of the room. Naruto didn't notice when the Hyuga left with his team. She didn't even notice that 2 hours had passed before her jounin sensei arrived. Heite Kakashi entered the room, staring at them for a few moments before saying, "My first impression of you is, you're boring. Meet me on the rooftop in 5 minutes." The man vanished and was followed by Suzuki, who had used a shunshin. When had he learned that? Did Naruto teach him? Naruto stood up and left with Sakura following. She hadn't spoken with her friend since her outburst. At the moment, Naruto just didn't have the energy to. On the rooftop, both girls saw Suzuki and their jounin talking before they turned to look at them. Alright, let's introduce ourselves. State your name, age, likes, dislikes, and your dream, Kakashi said, turning to Suzuki. Uchiha Suzuki, 11. I like sparring and learning new things from Naruto. I dislike fangirls and stalkers. My dream is to make my brother proud and live up to and surpass Itachi and Naruto's expectations, Suzuki said confidently, and Kakashi nodded. Your turn, Pinky. I'm Haruno Sakura, 11. I like my friends Naruto and Ino, clothes, and. She glanced at Suzuki, giggling. I dislike Kiba because he's a loud mouth. And my dream is, She glanced at Suzuki again and giggled, making Kakashi raise a brow. Suzuki, however, paid no attention. Last up, Broody-chan. Namikaze Naruto, 10, almost 11. I like my friends and my parents. I dislike a certain someone, and my dream is to beat that person, Naruto said, and Suzuki sneered. You'll never beat Naruto even if you lived 100 lives, dead last, Suzuki told her, making her angry, but their one-eyed jounin stopped them. Alright, be at training ground 7 at 6 a.m. sharp. I suggest you don't eat breakfast, or you might throw up. Dismissed, Kakashi said, then used a shunshin. Suzuki did the same almost instantly, leaving the girls alone. Do you really hate your brother that much, Naruto? Sakura asked cautiously. Naruto made mommy and daddy cry for hours, Sakura-chan. You should have seen mommy when Naruto tried to move out. Daddy had to use his rank to make him stay. Naruto tried to justify her hatred. Sakura thought for a few moments before standing up. I know you won't like what I'm about to say, and I'm not siding with your brother, but what would you have become if you were in his shoes and were the one ignored your whole life? Sakura left the Namikaze twin to ponder the question. Indeed, what would Naruto have become if she were Naruto? Minato had sent 2 Umbu to find Jiraiya. The memory of a forgotten warning came back to him the night he had to order Naruto to stay instead of letting his son leave. It still pained Minato and Kushina how terrible the situation had become between them. Both had made countless mistakes, and Minato was the reason they had done what they did. Had he not decided for himself that Naruto was the gifted child, maybe the situation with Naruto would never have occurred. Currently, his son was outside the village with Ibiki and Genma on an A-rank mission to Yugakure. Team 7, 8, 10, and Team Guy had all passed. It had been reported that Inyazuka Kiba had pissed his son off even before the boy became an official genin. Some had been informed immediately to ensure her heir didn't kill himself for being tactless. Much to the annoyance of the Abarame heir and the younger Uchiha, they couldn't request a new team since there were no other genin teams looking for replacements, and only a handful had passed this year. Minato sat in his office, contemplating what he could do with his son when he returned, when the door slammed open and an injured Genma came in. Hokage-sama, the mission to Yugakure was a success, and their village leader signed the treaty and alliance with Konoha. However, on the way back, we faced some missing nins, and 3 of them were from Kiri, Mamakai Zabuza and the Demon Brothers. We managed to kill the Demon Brothers, but Mamakai appeared and Naruto was left to fight him. Ibiki and I were recovering from our opponent's poison attacks. Mamakai recognized Naruto from the bingo book and talked about handing him over to Oto for the bounty. Naruto fought the Demon of the Mist as best as he could, but an unknown ninja appeared and paralyzed Naruto, allowing Mamakai to land several hits. Before retreating, Naruto managed to cut off Mamakai's arm, causing the Nukenin to drop his sword and vanish. Genma reported as fast as he could. "And where is my son now?" Minato stood up instantly. "Ibiki rushed into the hospital while I reported to you, Hokage-sama," Genma answered. "Tenzo, inform Kushina what happened and that I'll be at the hospital by the time you tell her," Minato said, then used a shunshin to the hospital. He was grateful that despite her losses, Tsunade stayed in Konoha and ran the hospital as the head medic. Minato reached the hospital and asked where his son was. "Hokage-sama, Jounin Namikaze is still inside the operating room with Tsunade-sama. Please wait outside until she comes out," the nurse said, and Minato did as he was told. He waited. Kushina arrived 10 minutes later, looking worried. "How is he?" she asked him. "Tsunade hasn't come out yet," Minato answered. An hour later, Tsunade finally emerged, blood splattered on her operating gown. Kushina and Minato looked horrified. "He'll be fine now." Ibiki managed to bring him in before any lasting damage was done. Naruto's immune system fought off the bacteria that got into his system. "I've stitched the larger wounds and healed the broken ribs. He has no internal injuries," as Ibiki made sure he was body-bound before rushing him here. "Naruto will need bed rest for at least 3 weeks and no heavy exercise until I say so," Tsunade told them seriously. "Oh, thank Kami, Tsunade-Baa-chan," Kushina cried, sobbing tears of joy that her son would live. "However, there is something I need to address with both of you. Follow me to my office," Tsunade ordered, and they followed her. Once inside, Tsunade made them sit down. "I may not have been there, but I am fully aware of the rift between you two and Naruto with Naruto. I am very disappointed that it has gotten this far. I would have thought you would have noticed." "I certainly did," Tsunade said gravely, and the couple bowed their heads in shame. "As the twins grew up, I would have thought you would have been fair. I didn't interfere because I didn't want to question your parenting. However, now that the twins are turning 11, things are going to be harder to fix. I've heard Jounin and Chuyunin speak highly of Naruto. Even the Umbu I come across speak so respectfully of him, not because he is your son, Minato, but because of his talent, intelligence, and skills. I wish I could say the same for Naruto." Tsunade rubbed her forehead and leaned back in her chair. "I know we made mistakes, Tsunade-Baa-chan. Minato and I are doing our best to make it up to Naruto," Kushina said, but Tsunade raised her hand. "Kushina, I don't think you understand the situation at all. The obvious neglect you've shown cannot be easily forgiven by your own son. If I remember correctly, you forgot about him during the twins' 6th birthday. I saw you walking around the village, and Naruto was nowhere in sight. I kept tabs and hoped you would do something. When Naruto graduated early, I thought you both would notice. But when I saw that you didn't see what the rest of the village could, I knew you had no idea. When he became Chuyunin, I hoped, yet you failed again. My last straw was when he became a Jounin, and you still didn't notice." Tsunade's words were laced with disappointment, making the couple silently cry once more. "Now, I wanted to speak with you both because Naruto's current condition should not be aggravated. That being said, I want you to not stress my patient while he is recuperating. Am I understood?" she asked, and they both nodded slowly, wiping their tears. "Fix your relationship with him. Don't give up, since this was technically your fault. Emphasize to Naruto that she needs to better herself. I've noticed these past few days that she isn't taking the news of Naruto being a Jounin well. Those years of training her better show itself soon." Minato, Tsunade added just before Shizun knocked and opened the door. "Yandame-sama, Kushina-sama, as ordered by Tsunade-sama, Naruto is now in room 394 and resting," the assistant said before being dismissed with a nod from Tsunade. "Don't forget what I told you, or I will ban you from seeing Naruto until I release him," she warned one last time before they left her office to care for their son, who needed them. In the middle of the square, the teams gathered with their jonin senseis, who were discussing a joint training session with Anko and Itaki when Genma and Ibiki appeared. "Oh, you're back from Yugakur. How was it? And where's Naruto-kun?" Anko asked instantly, her voice excited. The genin turned to listen. The mission was a success, but on the way home, we ran into Mamakai Zabuza and the demon brothers. Genma and I killed the brothers and were recovering when the demon of the mist appeared. Naruto had to fight him off to keep us alive. Naruto is strong, but Zabuza outclassed him with experience, and the fact that the demon is an S-rank nuke nin, it's a blessing that Naruto managed on his own and lived. But really, Naruto would have been fine if it weren't for an unknown ninja who paralyzed him, giving Zabuza a chance to land hits on him. Before Zabuza could retreat, though, Naruto managed to detach the demon's arm, and the sword fell to the ground with the arm, Genma told them, and everyone was in shock. "Where is Naruto now, Genma-san?" Shikamaru queried on behalf of his friends, who were concerned. "He's currently at the hospital, his surgery should have concluded by now," Ibiki informed them, and the four boys dashed toward the hospital. "Meet us at Training Ground 7 tomorrow for interteam drills." "Dismissed," Kakashi ordered, and the jonin disappeared instantly. The remaining genins simply sat or stood in place for a while. "Wow, Naruto fought off an S-rank rogue ninja and managed to slice the bastard's arm before the coward ran away," Kiba said with a look of astonishment. He had learned his lesson when he was punished by both his jonin sensei and his mother. Inyazuka-tsum had drilled it into his head that the next time he spoke ill of someone, Kiba would be castrated. "Aren't you going to see your brother, Naruto?" Ino asked, and all eyes turned to the other blonde. "I suppose," was all she said as she got up and walked solemnly toward the hospital. She still disliked the fact that Naruto was a certified jonin while she was a mere genin. All they had been doing lately were just deer ranks. Being on a team with Suzuki had been one of Naruto's wishes since she attended the academy. But now that she had her wish, she didn't think she wanted it anymore. Suzuki wasted no time in telling her and Sakura how useless and weak they were. Also, Suzuki always spoke about how he wished he had been paired with Naruto instead of her, how he was better than her, smarter than her, and more accomplished than her. It irritated her so much that until now, everything had been going well for her. She was the favorite, daddy's little princess. And now, all of a sudden, her parents fussed over Naruto. He was barely there while they grew up. He was always in his room, well, she thought he was since she never really saw him at home. He rarely joined them for dinner as it was. Now, her mommy avoided seafood recipes because Naruto was allergic to them, never mind her daddy who couldn't eat seafood as well. Most of the meals were chicken, pork, beef, and vegetables. Naruto hated ramen, so that was off the menu as well. Naruto sighed as she reached the hospital and was told by the nurse, before she even asked, where her parents and brother were. As she turned to walk away, she couldn't help but overhear the whispers of the people around her. "Did you hear? The eldest finally found out," said one of the gossipers. "Oh? And I'm sure she made a huge fuss about it. I still wonder how Naruto-sama is related to her." "They are nothing alike at all," whispered the other one back. "I know what you mean. I heard from the academy teachers that when Naruto-sama had stopped coming to school because he had already graduated, she was bragging about how it was good so that he wouldn't embarrass her in public." Another voice joined in, and Naruto balled her hand into a fist as she tried not to listen. "The nerve! It ought to be the other way around. It is as clear as day who is the better one. Naruto-sama is more talented, more intelligent, more patient, and is definitely more of a pleasure to work with than she ever will be," said one other. Naruto walked faster, trying to get away from them to not yell back and say something that would get her into trouble. From what happened to Kiba, Naruto wasn't that stupid to make a mess of her own. She reached the floor and saw her brother's friends waiting outside with the jonin and a few chunin she wasn't sure she had ever met before, which made her mentally ask, how many people did Naruto know? He had never been the friendly kind of guy, even to her. The door of the room opened and her parents came out with red eyes once again. Naruto looked furious that they cried again because of something Naruto did. "Ever since you paid attention to him, all you ever did was cry every night. And here you are again, crying because he got a little hurt," Naruto yelled, and all eyes were on her. Shino held back Niji while Shikamaru held back Suzuki. Too bad, they forgot to cover his mouth as well. Well, Naruto just proves how much better he is. He fought for this village and came out alive against an S-rank nuke nin. He held his ground, which I can definitely say you won't be able to do. You're nothing like him, and no matter how much you wish, you will never be as great as him. He is everything you're not, which is just sad because even the villagers wonder how he can stand to have a sister like you who is pathetic as the friend she hangs out with. You and Haruno are nothing but dead weights, and despite Kakashi-sensei's motto, if both of you are ever in danger, I don't think I'd risk my life for either of you. If you got captured, it meant that you were so weak you couldn't even fight back. So, save yourself any more embarrassment by shutting up, because no matter how much you whine about it, the fact remains and everyone can see who is better," Suzuki said as he turned his back on her, bowed his apology to the Hokage, and entered the room where his friend was lying. For some reason, Naruto knew that her outburst backfired as she looked at her parents, who stared at her with shock and pure disappointment in their eyes. Even the jonin and shinin looked disgusted. She instantly left and ran off, not bothering to see if her parents even tried to stop her. The Namikaze couple silently watched from the door as their son's friends fussed over him. Worry was written all over their faces, and just before anyone could say anything, the little blonde prince finally stirred and slowly opened his eyes. "Dobe," Suzuki cried as his friend's eyes slowly opened. "Hey team," Naruto replied with a slight grin on his face. "Don't scare us like this ever again, Naruto." "Geez, you're so troublesome," Shikamaru said as he ran his fingers through his friend's hair. "Sorry, couldn't be helped. Ibiki Teiko and Genma-san needed to be protected." He tried to tell them, but they still sighed. "Don't worry about it, Naruto. We heard from Ibiki-san already. We're just glad you're back," Neji spoke up as he placed a hand on Naruto's leg gently. A few more minutes, the jonin and shinin joined in and told Naruto how glad they were of him and how proud they were that he protected his team, even if it meant laying down his life on the line. Half an hour later, the jonin, sans Kakashi, and the chinin, bar Irika, left the hospital and returned to their duties. Tsunade had entered the room to check up on her godson and gently scolded him that he made her worry. Naruto at least looked apologetically before the situation turned serious when the blonde noticed the couple at the back of the room. "May I ask why they are still here? Surely they would have returned home to their precious daughter since they can see I am alive still." Naruto pointed out coldly that even Tsunade couldn't help but flinch. No one really spoke for a long time until Shikamaru sighed and asked, "Hokage-sama, I do not mean to be disrespectful, but I must ask, when you and your wife realized that you forgot Naruto's 6th birthday, why didn't you immediately set out to make amends right then and there?" The couple looked ashamed and sighed. "I think we tried, but for some reason, we just keep getting distracted. Naruto would always demand our full attention. We train her so hard, and when we finally think we have time, we keep losing the nerve to ask Naruto for anything." As time went on, the problem became harder and harder. Naruto always seemed to disappear and work got harder. Minato tried to explain as best as he could, but Naruto only raised his brow. "You know that your excuses are feeble, right? And what do you mean you have been training Naruto? She barely passed the academy test. If she wasn't your daughter, they wouldn't have allowed her to graduate with that horrible bushin she made," Naruto pointed out, and they winced again. "And don't blame me for disappearing all the time, you made me that way. I was always forgotten. Since I was 3, I knew that something wasn't right and that you would never give me the same attention you do with Naruto. So right then and there, I stopped asking for anything if I could manage it. Most of my clothing, my books, and my equipment were from my friends. I went as far as borrowing money from them until I could pay them back when I could manage it. Aside from the breath of life, room, and bed, you gave me nothing, well, except the reality that I will never be anything in your eyes as your pathetic daughter," Naruto said as he smirked, the one that he gave his victims at TNI. Irika and Kakashi knew of the smirk, of course, which scared them a little as Naruto was using it on his own parents. Yes, they weren't the best, but they still were his parents. But again, Naruto's words came back to them, which made sense. They had all the chance they could, but they didn't do anything. "Now that we have heard the first set of whys, let's move on to why you are still here," Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes on them. Kushina shifted and swallowed hard. "Naruto, please, I know that we have no right to ask it of you, but, I beg of you, give us another chance. Just one last chance," Kushina was begging her son as she cried. Tsunade and the rest looked away, not wanting to see it lest they too try to ask Naruto to give them the chance. Naruto, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes on the couple. They had never given him any reason for him to even forgive them, let alone ask for a chance. "Answer me this, if you do have an answer, then I might consider it," Naruto spoke up after a long silent moment. The couple looked hopeful and nodded. "What is it that you think you need to fix between us? The last time, you didn't even know what it was. Do you know now?" he challenged them, and all eyes turned to the couple, who stood straighter. "Our strained, no, our nearly non-existent relationship with you. We know that Minato and I will have to work hard for it, but we want to fix it. I want to know who my son is and everything about him," Kushina answered bravely and waited. Everyone waited for Naruto to speak up. Another long pregnant of silence swept through the room, and only Naruto's deep inhale and exhale broke it. "One chance. And if you fail, I will be nothing more than another shinobi in the service of the Yondaime Hokage. You are never to acknowledge me as a son, as I will never speak of you as my parents. You are never to treat me any different from the other shinobis if you ever fail. And you are to agree that if you fail, I will change my name to whatever I choose and will live by that name till I die of old age or in the line of duty. My name will never be Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto if you fail this chance," Naruto told them with a deep, cold, and solid tone. Yes, he was only 10, but he could change it when it suited him. The others listened and vowed to themselves to never piss the blonde off no matter what. They also vowed to make sure that Naruto was safe and protected. The couple understood the gravity of the situation and nodded in acceptance of the demand. They were grateful for the one chance and promised themselves to never fail as they feared the thought of losing their son. If they fail, you do know that the clans will fight to make you are their own right. Shino spoke up and everyone turned to him, then to Naruto, who looked a bit worried then sighed. I had not thought of that. But I will cross that bridge when I get there. If I get there, that is, he corrected as he saw the couple winced. The door suddenly opened and banged on the wall. Naruto had not been on his guard, which made him jump off the bed and fall on the floor. Tsunade, Minato, and Kushina grabbed Jiraiya angrily while the rest helped Naruto back on the bed. What the hell were you thinking? Tsunade screamed at her old teammate's face. The couple had kunais on opposite sides of his neck and the toad son and swallowed hard. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I swear. I panicked, he tried to explain as he was being held by 3 strong nin and one could punch his head off if she tried hard enough. Tsunade released Jiraiya and went to check on Naruto to see if he was alright. The jonin, chunin, and the genin glared and threw their ki at Jiraiya the whole time the head medic was checking Naruto. If anything happened to Naruto, Konoha will be another son. In short, Kakashi spoke up and the rest nodded in agreement, which made Jiraiya worry as there was little chance he would come out alive with all of them against him. After a few more minutes, Tsunade shared her findings. Luckily, Naruto is alright. The fall didn't damage anything but give him a small ache from the fall. This made everyone sigh in relief before glaring at the man who just came. So what brings the equally negligent godfather here? Naruto asked with a trunkload of hate. He was tired, a bit hungry, and in pain once more. I came to talk to Minato, but the tower staff said he was here. I thought something happened to Naruto-chan. The answer was wrong, which made Naruto freeze the whole room with just his facial expression. That useless Kunoichi isn't here. The door is still wide open for you to leave. Your presence is not needed. The yondaime and his wife were just leaving. Go see to your precious goddaughter and make sure she hasn't managed to kill herself from just walking home, Naruto told the man, who shivered in fright as the eyes of his godson bore into his own. Jiraiya tried to apologize, but it was too late. Naruto was mad. Leave, Naruto commanded, and a giant fist of ki sent Jiraiya out the door and slamming against the wall that cracked heavily. The genin were on the floor in shock as they never felt that much ki in their lives. Irika, Kakashi, Tsunade, Minato, and Kushina choked a little before they regained their balance and breathing. Jiraiya was stunned, not noticing the pain he was in as he tried to get himself back on his feet. Naruto had coughed hard and blood came out of his mouth. Tsunade was instantly trying to see what the damage was while Neji turned his Byakugan on to see if his bones or nerves were damaged. Sasuke, Shino, and Shikamaru, along with Irika and Kakashi, stood to the side while Naruto was being looked over. Minato, Kushina, take Jiraiya and leave. Naruto's internal wounds nearly ripped themselves apart. I told you that Naruto will not be stressed out. Get out and never enter the hospital, Jiraiya. You are not good for Naruto's healing, Tsunade commanded, and the couple obeyed before they too were banned from visiting Naruto. I don't want him near me ever again, Naruto said in between coughs before the couple left with Jiraiya. Truly, for a Sunin, Jiraiya was as stupid and as loud as Naruto. No wonder the girl turned out the way she did, thought most of the occupants of the room. Little was known to them that the hands of change had been turned by chaos and destruction. The days went by and Naruto got better and better. His friends visited him every single day, as well as the jonin, chunin, and umbu he knew. They would tell him what was happening outside, a few details of a mission that was not a secret for the umbu and Tora. Naruto chuckled at the looks his friends had when describing the nightmare that was catching Tora for the wife of the daimyo. Well, I am glad that Ibiki-sensei didn't let me go through it, he commented, but the other scowled. No, he didn't. But he gave you something equally worse, if not more, Sasuke muttered, and another chuckle came from Naruto. Aside from his friends, Minato and Kushina had been there every day as well. After Kushina made Naruto's breakfast and watched her daughter leave the house, she would pack up the obentou she readied for Naruto and left to head to the hospital for most of the day. Minato would spend lunch at the hospital with his wife and Naruto but return to his office to do his paperwork, this time reading through them himself. You do know that you can use Kage Bushin and let them do your work for you. The more you make, the faster your paperwork will be done, Naruto commented one day after hearing the man whine about traitorous papers stacking against him. Kushina laughed while Naruto smirked when the yondaime sat on his seat with the look of shock and disbelief. How do you think the Sandaime was able to keep up with his workload and watch over Konohamaru when his parents had died? But I'm surprised the old man didn't tell you about that trick, Naruto commented again. Well, I didn't think I would have needed to tell him since he was said to be a genius and all, Naruto-kun, said a voice from the door, and all turned to see the Sandaime standing there with his grandson. Juji, Konohamaru, Naruto greeted as the boy ran into the room and to the other side of the bed and showed Naruto his drawing. Look what I made, boss, Konohamaru cried excitedly as showed Naruto his drawing of Konoha from the Hokage Mountains viewpoint. The picture wasn't awful. It was a little rough, but it was better than what most kids Konohamaru's age could create. Wow, KO, you're getting better all the time. Keep this up and you'll be a painting master before you graduate from the academy, Naruto praised, causing the boy to blush and nod. The old man told him all about his journey to the daimyo's palace and how well Konohamaru had behaved, just as Naruto had told him he would before they left. An hour later, the adults went to Minato's office, where Jiraiya, Tsunade, and, surprisingly, Orochimaru were waiting. To what do I owe the pleasure of the legendary Sunin's presence this afternoon? Minato asked, stunned but still respectful. Orochimaru was a little bitter that the third Hokage hadn't chosen him as his successor, but it had opened up more opportunities for him to travel and make new discoveries around the world. After a year of traveling, Orochimaru was glad he hadn't become Hokage and missed out on all the things he had seen and learned. Tsunade sent me a message regarding Naruto's medical case. After Jiraiya's foolishness, Naruto's internal organs nearly tore themselves apart. Luckily, Tsunade was able to heal them to the best of her ability. But she made a point to keep a close eye on Naruto. And as she briefed me the moment I stepped foot into the village, Naruto's body had begun to change and something was stirring within his chakra system, the snake Sunin explained. Minato was stunned, while his wife trembled with fear. Are you saying there's something wrong with my son? Minato asked with a warning in his voice, but Orochimaru held up his hands. There's nothing wrong with him. However, Tsunade says his chakra system has changed, which is why I will be examining him later this evening after I read a few more of his lab results that Tsunade believes might help us figure out what's going on with your son, Minato, the Sunin replied, his voice devoid of any threat, even though he had every right to be threatening. Anyway, how are your attempts at mending your relationship with Naruto going? Tsunade asked, shifting the topic to the couple, who sighed deeply. He's still wary of us, and I don't blame him. We mostly just ask him about his achievements, his hobbies, his likes and dislikes, and his dreams and goals, Minato said first before turning to Kushina, who smiled sadly. We also asked him about his favorites food, color, and drink. He's allergic to seafood like Minato, and he doesn't like ramen like I do, but he loves dango, sushi, and nigiri, and chicken tempura. He doesn't like bitter foods, occasionally eats spicy food when he feels like it, and on some days, he eats everything with wasabi, Kushina told them, and Tsunade, Orochimaru, and the third Hokage all smiled. He hates it when people hover over him and correct him when he knows he's right. He doesn't like it when people judge him by his appearance instead of getting to know him. And Minato continued but stopped, looking a bit disappointed. He turned to Kushina, who sighed as well, knowing what her husband was about to say. And what? Jiraiya asked, which only made Minato and Kushina feel worse. And he hates you, Jiraiya, Kushina said, and all eyes turned to the white-haired Sunin. Let me guess, Jiraiya said something stupid in the middle of Naruto's anger. Hiruzen guessed, getting nods from Tsunade and the couple. Well, I suggest you stay away from him, Jiraiya. When Naruto dislikes a person, accidents tend to happen whenever they cross paths. And trust me, I know Naruto. With his skills, he can catch you off guard and deliver a deadly blow. If he truly wants something, he can kill you if he wants. Whatever you did must have really angered him to say that he hates you instead of just disliking you, Hiruzen explained to the group, and they understood. What did you do, Jiraiya? I know it was stupid, but care to shed some light? Orochimaru inquired stoically, but his eyes danced with amusement. Jiraiya pouted and shrugged. What the big buffoon did was barge into the hospital and slam the door so loudly that Naruto fell on the floor when he had just come out of an operation from a mission he had gone on with Ibiki and Genma that ran into complications. It's no secret that Naruto and Naruto hate each other, but he came in and said he rushed to the hospital when he heard Minato and Kushina were there and thought Naruto was the one who had been checked in as a patient. And when he saw it wasn't the female twin, he shrugged it off and apologized as if he didn't care at all, Tsunade explained, and both Orochimaru and the third Hokage nodded in understanding. I knew you could be a bit stupid, but really, Jiraiya? That was just low, even for you, Orochimaru commented, shaking his head and turning to Minato. By the way, the Snake Elders wanted me to send you a message. Before your time is up, see what needs to be seen. The sands of time have begun to fall, for the wheel of fate has been spun and is now taking its toll. The world as we know it will hang in a balance between life and death. Your time is running and the world will run out of breath. You believed in prophecies and allowed them to rule. Now watch as the flames burn, for you have played the biggest fool. The entire room fell quiet, and all eyes were on Minato now. Minato, what does it mean? Hiruzen asked, his voice firm and a bit guarded. The toads, before the twins were born, gave a prophecy that one of my children would fulfill its role. Gifted by the highest of hosts, your child will bring forth power that has never before been seen by mortal eyes. The one loved by the gods and feared by demons shall bear power that may bring about a new age or the end of the world when the time comes for the decision to be made. Only then will the world's fate hang in a balance for the first and last time. Then when I was told that I would have a boy and a girl, I knew it had to be Naruto, because as far as I knew, girls were rare in my family, he said, but Orochimaru looked worried. I have to disagree, Minato. As I've traveled the lands, I have come across information about your origins, and the line of the Namikaze family has always been girls. Your mother's genes must have been strong to give birth to a son, but every little thing about the Namikaze line has been about a female. When a son is born, he takes the name of the family, as most of the offspring are females. Every Namikaze is vowed to produce at least one male Namikaze before taking the name of the husband, Orochimaru said as he pulled scrolls from his bag and handed them to Minato. The entire room was silent for 10 minutes before the fourth Hokage dropped the scroll on the table. Meaning, all this time, Naruto was the one meant by the toads and not Naruto. Jiraiya broke the silence as he regained his composure. However, the third Hokage, Tsunade, and Orochimaru didn't like what they were realizing. Let me get this straight, all these years of abandonment in favoring Naruto were because you thought she was the prophesied child of the toads? Tsunade asked, anger rising in her stomach. I did not think you would have turned out this way, Minato. I expected more from you and Kushina, Hiruzen commented with utter disgust, which made the couple shrink in shame. And to think that you were chosen as Hokage because of your fairness and just choices, Orochimaru added, which made Minato shrink just a bit more. And I'm guessing that Jiraiya had a hand in this as well, Tsunade inquired as she turned to her old teammate. No need to guess. It has his name written all over it, Orochimaru said and got a nod from the third Hokage. It seems that the two of you have a great deal of making it up to Naruto. Jiraiya, I can honestly say that you're hopeless. He will never forgive you, and nothing you say will make him do so. I can say that speaking to him about the prophecy and how the decision was made would make it worse, and he will come after your life and that of Minato and Kushina's as well. It would be best not to mention it to him at all, lest we face the world's destruction sooner than it was foretold, Hiruzen commanded in a firm tone as he stood up, followed by Tsunade and Orochimaru. Jiraiya, I will remind you to stay away from Naruto. And never mention Naruto in his presence, or he might just take away your chances, Minato, Kushina, Tsunade added before the three left the office. The couple looked horrified and felt disgusted with themselves, while Jiraiya didn't know what to feel. He had favored Naruto the whole time because they had assumed it was her, completely ignoring Naruto, who was the true gifted one. If the Umbu and Shinobis weren't exaggerating with their praise of the boy, then the old man Hiruzen would have been right with his warning Naruto would be able to kill him. After Orochimaru had informed Minato that his family line had been mostly females and not males as he had thought, he began to look back at what little he could remember of his old life. He vaguely recalled his mother and father, as he had blocked out the horrible images of his parents' death when he was 5. He remembered his mother telling him nothing about her family or his father's. He had assumed that since his father had many brothers, the male line of their family was the strong one. Looking at the papers Orochimaru had given him, he read every little piece of information he could and came to realize that it was technically his mother who was a Namikaze and not his father. Minato tried his best to recall the memories he had never wished to remember in order to find answers to the questions that had piled up on him. He was so lost in thought that he didn't hear Kushina enter his study and lock the door behind her. Minato, we have to talk, she began, and he looked up at her and then sighed deeply. She took a seat in front of him and tried her best to find the words to start the conversation that they both secretly dreaded. How did this all happen? How could we not have seen Naruto's progress? Surely the academy would have given us a report, right? And why didn't Naruto tell us that Naruto hadn't been attending school? If she had, we probably could have found out about all this before it got so big, Kushina told Minato, who leaned back in his chair. I don't know what you want me to say, Kushina. I'm already wondering how much my own staff has kept hidden from me. My previous secretary, Hashio Chegasa, had surely been slipping important documents on top. But then again, I can't really blame her. I should have read them before approving anything. It seems that many of them conspired to hide the fact that Naruto was a genius, and for some reason, I think I can understand why Naruto wouldn't have told us anything, Minato told Kushina, who looked confused. Think about it. If we had found out, all the attention we had been showering on Naruto would have been divided, if not transferred, to Naruto. His achievements alone are amazing, and he achieved so much before his 10th birthday. We can't blame Naruto but ourselves. We have been horrible parents. Yes, the prophecy was important, but we had allowed it to control our lives this whole time. All the training we gave Naruto, I hate to admit it, but it doesn't seem like it paid off at all. I took a look at her grades, and she is the dead last of her jonin class. She barely passed, according to Irika and the other teachers, Minato said, a tone of total irritation on himself. I had decided that it was Naruto since I remembered that my father had many brothers on his side. I honestly don't even remember anyone from my mother's side growing up. They had died when I was 5 years old and I was brought to Konoha by Jiraiya when he had found me all those years ago. Our village had been raided by missing nins, and my parents were killed in front of me. I had been trying every single day when I arrived here to never remember what had happened. Up until now, I admit, I thought that I had always been right when it came to my family history. I had forgotten about most of my past, and because of that, I may have just condemned us all to die when the time comes, he said, his voice breaking as he watched his hands shake in front of his eyes. Both had been silent after Minato told Kushina about his past, and she had tears running down her eyes. Minato's past was as horrible as her own. Her country had been attacked, and little had been left of Whirlpool when she had run with the other survivors. After coming to Konoha, she had vowed to forget the deaths of her family and the destruction of her country. It had just been so horrible that it took her more than 4 years to forget the memories and nightmares. The long silence seemed to stretch on forever. Neither Minato nor Kushina had the nerve to break the growing silence, but they also knew that one of them had to speak again. And what about Naruto now? Minato, our daughter has always been our priority, and from how she treated the news, I don't even want to imagine how she'll be when Naruto returns from the hospital. I had given her so much, I know that and you know that. We have trained, taught, and provided her with everything we possibly could, but it seems like none of it brought forth any results, not even the slightest if she's the last of her batch. Kushina's voice expressed worry and fear for her children and the future of their family. Minato still hadn't spoken at all, but Kushina gave him time to think. It was shocking to know how different their son was from their daughter and how far he had already gotten in life without them knowing until now. The mere fact that Naruto had managed to secure his rank and keep it hidden from them, Kushina wondered just what else Naruto could do. I understand your concerns, Kushina, I really do, which leads me to question many things right now. One of them would be Naruto's other abilities and skills. I know what's written, but it can't be just that. Another would be who else has been helping Naruto hide all this. And Naruto. I question if she really is ready for the life of a shinobi. We haven't disciplined her well enough if her outbursts and tantrums have anything to say about it. The maturity I see in Naruto, I cannot see it in Naruto, Kushina. Not even a sliver of it. Minato sighed in defeat, and Kushina knew from the tone of his voice that the conversation was over for the time being. She sighed as well as she stood up and left the office, feeling more burdened than before. She had come to her husband to seek answers, but she had left with even more questions than before. Thinking back on what Minato had said about their daughter, Kushina had to agree, even if it pained her to do so. Naruto was her child, and they had given her everything they could, but it seemed that they hadn't given her everything. They had failed to discipline Naruto and teach her manners and respect. And now, it was showing how little they had really taught her about the more important lessons in life. Kushina couldn't help but ask herself as well, was Naruto really ready for the life of a shinobi? The days went by, and the couple tried their best to get to know their son, who was obviously still very wary of them. It seemed like no matter what they did, they could never have their son the way they wished. Orochimaru had come around, which made Naruto smile at the man as he was checked over. They had talked about the man's travels, and Naruto told him stories about his missions, without the details, and the exams, which pained the couple when they listened. Sasuke, Shikamaru, Shino, and Neji visited every day with Itachi, Iruka, Kakashi, Guy, Ibiki, Anko, Genma, and Ujeo. Even Neji's teammates visited, as well as Shikamaru's. However, when Kiba had visited, Sasuke was inches away from killing the Inyazuka for outright saying that Naruto was careless for thinking he could take on a missing nin by himself. Neji was being restrained by Lee and Guy, while Sasuke was held off by his brother and Itachi. Kiba, Naruto is a jonin, just reminding you in case you forgot. And also, Naruto has been killing missing nins for nearly 4 years now. The mission he was on just had more nins thrown their way and incapacitated Ibiki-san and Genma-san, who were with him. He defended them while they were trying to save enough strength to move after they had been weakened from a lot of fighting and running. Keep your mouth shut before someone does it for you, permanently, Shikamaru said as he crossed his legs and arms calmly. It made Kiba and Akamaru shiver in fright as the calm Nara looked ready to kill him if it weren't for the others who would stop him. Honestly, I thought the Inyazuka would have trained their children like their dogs. At least the dog was quiet and respectful. TCH. You better listen to the Nara boy, brat. I'm tempted to stitch those lips of yours closed right now, Anko threatened the paling Inyazuka, while Akamaru was shivering in Hineda's arms. Kakashi had intervened and said that it was best they leave Naruto to rest. In all honesty, he just wanted to leave before he killed the boy himself. Everyone had said their goodbyes just in time as Tsunade came around to check up on Naruto. The day before Naruto was to be released, Kushina had cleaned her son's bedroom, which was hardly dirty. Kushina had wondered how the room was kept clean when Naruto hadn't been there for nearly 3 weeks now. She had asked Minato about it, and he told her that there are seals in the room that keep the room clean even if Naruto wasn't around to clean it himself. Kushina was surprised when she heard this and felt proud yet ashamed that her son was able to do seals, and it was just now she had known of his depth. While Minato was working and Kushina was preparing for Naruto's return, Naruto watched with anger as she was being ignored by her parents now. Well, she wasn't really ignored, per se, but the attention she used to get from her parents wasn't the same anymore. It was all about Naruto now. Naruto this, Naruto that. Naruto was getting sick of it. Even her godfather was a bit off for some reason. The Toad Sunin had been invited to dinner once after the Snake Sunin had returned, and the atmosphere in the dining room was suffocating. Naruto tried to lift it by chatting away with her parents and her godfather, but the conversation never really flowed like it used to. They would answer using a few words or just nod/shake their heads. She was getting frustrated by the day. It went from bad to worse when both the other two Sunins had come to check on Naruto's room earlier for some reason. They had stayed for dinner with them, and Jiraiya had arrived just before they sat down. Noriko had never gotten along well with her godmother, as the woman had always been busy at the hospital, and as for the snake Sunin, she barely knew anything about him except what they were taught in school. She decided to remain quiet that night but could feel eyes watching her every move, even if she didn't see them. She turned to her parents, who looked so ashamed for some reason, Noriko could guess why, and were all nervous throughout the meal. The prodigal son returns. Naruto, Kushina, will be released from the hospital tomorrow. We moved his bed from the wall to make room for the machines we need to continue monitoring him. While he's no longer in danger, his wounds won't stay closed, and any surge of chakra causes them to reopen. He's desperate to get out of the hospital, and since you ordered him to stay there, he will come back and rest here instead, Tsunade stated, and Minato flinched at her emphasis. Minato's memory of that night was so vivid it never failed to pain him. In that case, if anything happens to Naruto while he's here, I'll hold you both accountable. I'm warning you, if he's stressed and doesn't heal in the month we've predicted, I will remove him from here, and you'll never see him again, Tsunade warned, her tone causing Minato, Kushina, and even Jiraiya to freeze in their seats. Orochimaru was nonchalant, as if the conversation didn't concern him, while Noriko was furious. Why can't he just stay at the hospital? Wouldn't it be better if you could keep an eye on him there? Noriko asked, trying to suppress her anger. We could, but he hates being in the hospital, saying it makes him restless to be stuck in a white room for hours. Besides, as far as I know, you have nothing to worry about. His room is out of your way, and you'll barely be here when he is. Just think of it like it always is, him not being here, even if he is. You've always been good at that, haven't you? Noriko, Tsunade replied in a tone Noriko disliked, a tone that worried the other adults, save for Orochimaru, who wore a faint smirk. Instead of answering, Noriko stood, left the table, and stomped to her room. What a rude child. I'm guessing she had little to no discipline growing up. Add in Jiraiya's influence. No wonder she's the way she is. She won't last a day outside Konoha's walls if she doesn't change. So unlike Naruto. Orochimaru commented off the cuff. Noriko threw herself onto her bed, screaming into her pillow. She hated Naruto with every fiber of her being. If he had just stayed invisible, like he always had, nothing would have changed. Who cares about his accomplishments? So what if he was a jonin? She'd just ask her dad to let her skip the chunin exams and take the jonin exams instead. She'd show him she could be better. Then she remembered that Naruto was returning tomorrow. She sat up and waited for the Sunin to leave and for her parents to fall asleep. Then she would go into Naruto's room and mess it up as much as she could without making a sound. A smirk crept onto Noriko's face as she prepared for her revenge. She watched as the Sunin left half an hour later. Another hour passed, her parents retreated to their bedroom, and she finally moved. Noriko walked as quietly as she could through the hall and up the stairs to Naruto's attic bedroom. She had never been there since Naruto had asked to move up. When she finally got there, she was shocked to see how big and full the room was. There were shelves upon shelves of books. It looked like a mini library. The entire space was bigger than her own room, which immediately annoyed her. She found the bed and saw it was near the window. Machines were set up, which she decided to leave untouched, to avoid the wrath of the snake and slug Sunin, of course, a study table and a medium-sized kotetsu a few feet away. She decided to mess up the library first and leave the bed area for last. Noriko pulled out a kunao, and as she was about to grab a book, she was zapped by lightning, yelping and dropping the kunao. Her hand had obvious first-degree burns, and the sleeve of her shirt was seared. Noriko cradled her hand in pain, trying her best not to make any more noise lest her parents wake up and look for her. She wasn't a coward, but for some reason, Naruto had made sure that even when he wasn't around, his room would be protected. It made Noriko wonder what else Naruto did to keep his bedroom secure. She stood up and went to the bed, grabbing her kunao with her other hand and throwing it onto the bed. The weapon bounced and lodged itself into the ceiling. Noriko's eyes widened. What the hell? Even the bed was protected. She decided it was in her best interest to just leave, so she did, completely forgetting the kunao. The next day, Noriko woke up and bandaged her hand as best as she could. She had no healing jutsu, so she had to wait until a nurse could look at her wound. The thought of going to the hospital was depressing, as she knew most, if not all, of the nurses and doctors hated her. When she got down to the dining room, the house was silent. Too quiet. Noriko entered the kitchen and saw a plate of food on the table. Her dad must have left early, and her mom didn't seem to be around either. Noriko, I made your breakfast and left it for you. I had to rush to the hospital to help with Naruto. He's coming home today. Your father left earlier to finish his paperwork so he could come home early and have tomorrow off. Love, Mom. Noriko was even more annoyed than before. Her mom had gone to care for Naruto since he was coming home. Ugh, really? What's so great about him anyway? Take away the titles and rank, and what is he? She yelled. Rich, handsome, charismatic, a genius, and a leader, answered Suzuki, who was standing behind her. Noriko jumped in fright, seeing her teammate there. Sakura had just arrived and stood next to the Uchiha. "What are you two doing here?" Naruto asked, looking mostly at Sakura. "Kakashi-sensei sent us to get you. We have D-rank missions today," Sakura answered her friend, then turned to Suzuki, who was smirking. "Suzuki-kun, what were you saying just now?" she asked, making the boy smirk even more. The useless one asked what Naruto was without his jonin title and rank. So I answered rich, handsome, charismatic, a genius, and a leader, which he is since he has already led a team of jonin and shinin before. He is rich in his own right, not to mention his inheritance from the Hokage. Naruto could buy the Uchiha district in a year or two if he wanted to. His missions pay him so much, not including the bonuses he receives from clients for excellent work, Suzuki boasted, which made Naruto huff in anger. It was now obvious to Sakura that Suzuki was deliberately trying to anger Naruto by rattling off Naruto's achievements. If Naruto weren't her friend, she would have snickered, but she showed no emotion and just sighed. She had come to realize that being on the same team as Suzuki wasn't as great as she had thought. Suzuki wasn't mean, but he would often point out her and Naruto's mistakes, call them useless and burdens during tasks, and irritate Naruto daily by speaking of Naruto. Now that Sakura was paying closer attention, she noticed how Naruto wasn't as popular with the adults as she was with their class, well, with Ino, Kiba, and her, at least. The rest of their classmates had stayed away from their group and Naruto's group, not wanting to get caught in the middle. The adults would often whisper and look at Naruto, shaking their heads as if she had done something wrong. The Chunin at the mission office also glared and sneered whenever they were there for dear ranks. Even those Chunin would loudly tell Suzuki about Naruto's previous missions when Naruto was within earshot. Suzuki smirked and walked out of the house. "Hurry up. I want to finish the deer rank so I can help Naruto home later," he called out, which sent Naruto over the edge. Sakura sighed again as she turned and followed the boy out, listening to Naruto walking behind her, muttering under her breath. It was then that Sakura noticed Naruto's wrapped hand. "Naruto, what happened to your hand?" she cried out, making Suzuki turn to look at them. Suzuki walked to them and grabbed Naruto's arm, pulling the bandage off. He smirked before laughing as he released Naruto's hand. "I know that burn. That's a first-degree burn from a lightning jutsu, and I'm pretty sure I know how you got zapped," airhead Suzuki said as he turned once more and walked ahead, leaving a confused Sakura and an angrier Naruto. Naruto quickly bandaged her hand and turned to Sakura. "But out, Sakura," she yelled and walked ahead, making Sakura angry. "Well, sorry for being worried about my friend then," Sakura shouted back and stomped past Naruto to catch up with Suzuki. Their jonin sensei was waiting outside the mission office when they arrived. Kakashi eyed the three, saw Naruto's arm, and turned to Suzuki with a raised eyebrow. 5 words, first-degree burns, lightning jutsu. Suzuki answered the unspoken question with a smirk. Kakashi eyed Naruto, who squirmed, before turning to open the door and enter the office. They received 18 D-rank missions, which Kakashi divided into 3, with each of them getting 6. "Alright, all 3 of you will do the tasks on your list. When you finish one, move to the next. When you finish all your tasks, report them, get your payment, and dismiss yourselves. I'll be checking on you when you least expect it, so don't slack off and do your jobs," he said, handing them the lists and turning to Naruto. "Go to the hospital and get that burn healed before you start your tasks. An injury will only slow you down," he added before shoes-hining out of the office. Suzuki didn't even argue and left as fast as he could. He planned to be quick so he could help Naruto when he was released from the hospital. Naruto, however, sneered as she watched the leaves fall. She knew their sensei would be at the hospital, hanging out with her brother. The thought alone frustrated her, and she left the office, not speaking to her friend at all. Naruto wasn't in the mood, and the thought of Naruto only made her angrier. Sakura, left alone, decided to re-evaluate her goals and plans, including her friendship with Namikaze Naruto. Ever since Naruto's jonin rank was revealed, Naruto had become distant, easily irritated, and, to quote Inara, very troublesome. She left the office and decided she ought to finish her tasks first and then re-evaluate everything. The whole day passed in a blur, and Suzuki finished his tasks in record time. He got his payment and went straight to the hospital, just catching up with the others, who waved and greeted him. As they entered Naruto's room, their friend was sitting up and smiling faintly. "Hey, you guys came," he greeted them. "Of course we came, dope," Suzuki said with a slight pout that he would deny later if asked. The others laughed a little before spreading out and packing up the things that had been brought for Naruto. Kushina had been packing clothes when the rest arrived, and no one really spoke to her after politely greeting the Hokage's wife. Naruto's friends were still wary of the couple when it came to Naruto, as they had known for a long time that the couple had been neglecting their son. Tsunade arrived with Orochimaru, finding everyone waiting in the room for the signal of Naruto's release. "I told you, didn't I?" Tsunade said with a smirk, while Orochimaru shook his head and chuckled. "Well, Naruto-kun, you are released from the hospital, but..." the man began, and everyone listened. "You will remain in bed for 2 weeks until we say you can move on your own. Your injuries have yet to fully close, and until then, no jutsu, no strenuous activities, no stress of any kind, or we will bring you back here until you are fully healed. Is that understood? Orochimaru spoke seriously, and Naruto sighed. Yes, I understand completely. I'm sure with everyone's help, I'll be able to avoid all that, as much as possible, Naruto said with a smirk, and everyone smiled at him. We'll be coming to your house to set up the machines to monitor your progress. Your legs won't be able to support you since we've numbed them, so you won't feel the pain from your strained muscles. Your arms can move, but as Orochimaru warned you, you cannot strain yourself, or even your arms will become painful, making your healing take longer than it should, Tsunade said as Guy came in with a wheelchair, which made Naruto sigh. Do I really have to ride that, he asked, which made the people smirk. It's either that or Guy or Ibiki carrying you home bridal style, Tsunade answered, which made Naruto shake his head instantly and the others laugh. Fine then, stupid wheelchair, Naruto resigned himself, mumbling the last part. Orochimaru himself moved and gently carried the grumbling patient, setting him in the wheelchair. I'll push it myself. Who knows what you all might think of doing, Tsunade said, killing everyone's silent desire to be the one to wheel Naruto out. When they reached the ground floor, everyone saw Minato dismissing a few umbu, and Naruto raised an eyebrow, noticing the weasel, cat, and dog masks. Now that he looked around, Yujao, Itachi, and Kakashi weren't there. He chuckled to himself, knowing the three were assigned to keep watch as they walked toward the Hokage's manor. Naruto had stopped calling it home because it never really felt like one. The Aburame, Hyuga, Nara, and Uchiha compounds felt more like home than the Hokage's manor. Heck, even Guy, Ibiki, Kakashi, Anko, Yujao, and Irika's apartments were more of a home to Naruto than his own. As the group made their way, people looked at them and waved at Naruto, who smiled and waved back. One of the old ladies Naruto had helped a few times came close and gave him a bunch of flowers and a basket of fresh bread. Get well soon, Naruto-kun. We miss having you over for afternoon tea, she told him as the other old ladies waved. I will, Nanami-san, he replied, smiling at the old ladies before the group moved on. When they were a good distance from the women, Orochimaru smirked as he turned to Naruto. So, in your busy schedule, you still find time to have tea and chat with the old ladies, Naruto-kun, he asked while the others snickered and Naruto blushed. Well, Nanami-san and the others have always been kind to me whenever I did deranks for them. I would finish early, and they would invite me for tea and biscuits. Whenever I take breaks from higher-ranking missions using deranks, I always make sure I do a few tasks for them. They've taken care of me many times before, and spending an hour or two with them isn't hard, Naruto said softly, making the others smile and shake their heads. Despite everything else, Naruto still had his kind and gentle side. Kushina and Minato smiled sadly as they listened to their son speak of others caring for him when they couldn't. Well, since you're in a wheelchair, you'll fit right in with them, Suzuki teased, and the others chuckled/snickered, while Naruto huffed. Just because my legs are a bit weak right now doesn't mean I'm old and would fit in as you put it, Suzuki, Naruto retorted, and the group laughed again. The Namikaze couple just chuckled awkwardly. When they reached the Namikaze manor, they saw Noriko with Ino and Sakura, which made Shikamaru and Suzuki groan. Noriko eyed her brother before huffing and entering the gates with the two girls right behind her. The whole group didn't even bat an eye and just proceeded to enter. After reaching the living room, Orochimaru and Tsunade went ahead to start the machines before hooking them up to Naruto. Minato, Kushina, Guy, and Ibiki had also gone up with the two Sunin. So, dearest brother, how does it feel to be home? Noriko inquired, sneering at Naruto, who rolled his eyes. Correction, this isn't my home, honorable daughter. Secondly, being alive after a mission outside Konoha, facing dangerous shinobi, fighting them, and surviving, I feel very blessed. Though I can't say the same for an imbecile such as yourself. I highly doubt you'd last an hour outside these walls with you being the dead last of your class, Naruto taunted back. Anko couldn't help but laugh at what Naruto said. The rest who understood what Naruto had called Noriko laughed as well. Only Noriko and Ino were in the dark about what that one word meant. What did you just call me? Noriko hissed, but Naruto smirked. Chill out, Namikaze. I know you didn't even understand the word I called you, so you can't really be mad, now can you? And take that conceited look off your face. You have neither the skill nor talent to back it up, so stop pretending to be something you're not. We both know you don't even have two brain cells to rub together, Naruto told her, causing Anko and the others to laugh/snicker once more. Irika chose to remain silent and not say anything, but he was trying to hold back his own laughter. Sakura, who knew the meaning of the names Naruto called Noriko, bit her own tongue to keep from laughing at her friend, while Ino remained confused. However, before Noriko could say anything, the rest of the adults returned. Ibiki lifted Naruto this time, and they all climbed the stairs to Naruto's attic bedroom/library. The Jonin, plus Anko and Irika, occupied the kotetsu, while the rest surrounded Naruto's bed as Orochimaru and Tsunade hooked up the machines. The boy sighed for a moment before looking up and smirking. He turned to look at Noriko, who was by the door. Oh, just a reminder, honorable daughter. Lest you wish for your entire arm to be fried, it would be in your best interest to refrain from attempting to destroy my possessions and leaving evidence lying around, Naruto said as all eyes turned to Nuriko, who was red with embarrassment and anger. Ibiki looked up and saw the kunai lodged in the ceiling. He turned to Anko, who nodded and stood on Ibiki's ready hands to pull out the kunai and hand it to the Hokage, who was in disbelief for a moment before looking angrily at his daughter. Nuriko, you and I will have a long talk later after dinner. You better be ready to explain, and you better not lie. I will know if you do, Minato warned Nuriko, who paled. She had never seen her father angry before, let alone angry at her. Nuriko turned to look at her mother, only to see she was also angry and disappointed. Nuriko swallowed and nodded before leaving the room. Do not leave the house. You will stay in your room until we call you for dinner. Don't even try to escape. I will be very disappointed if you do, Minato added before turning to look at Tsunade, who had hooked up the last wires that monitored Naruto's heart and pulse rate. Yes, disciplining Nuriko was just one of the changes they needed to make. Nuriko, who had staggered back down to the second floor, had paled even more. She was in trouble, and if she even thought of escaping, she would probably be punished more harshly than she could imagine. When she had tried to destroy Naruto's things and got burned for it, she didn't think it would make her situation worse than it already was. But apparently, her situation could and had gotten worse. As his daughter left his office with tears in her eyes, Minato never thought a day would come when he would have to reprimand his daughter for her actions. The mere fact that she had tried to destroy Naruto's things just because she disliked her own brother was just too much. Despite being young, Naruto had never caused his sister trouble and had been very quiet. Minato leaned back in his chair and sighed deeply. Now that he had time, he replayed all the memories that could have given him clues to what his son was doing, like the time his son graduated from the academy, but he didn't notice. Not really. He remembered glancing at the file once and getting distracted. Then it dawned on him. Kushina had barged into his office just as he was about to go over the list of graduates. Then the Sandaime came in, and Minato had asked him to create the team cells while he and Kushina ran to the hospital when she told him that Nuriko had fallen down after a training exercise at the academy. Minato literally slapped himself for even thinking of blaming someone else. Kushina, there's no getting around it. For her to try and ruin her own brother's possessions simply because she was upset, that's not right. I know we haven't been strict with her, but I never thought she would go so far. Despite how distant they are still family. That should mean something, shouldn't it? Minato searched for a good reply, but he knew his wife could see he was only avoiding the truth. How could he not? After all these years of training her, it felt like it had been for nothing. All the lessons they had taught Nuriko, why did none of it seem to have an effect? She appeared to understand what they were teaching, and her taijutsu was a bit better than her peers, but she was still barely average. It had hurt Minato deeply to learn his daughter was the dead last of her class. Once again, Naruto's words came rushing back to him. And all that time, you and your wife were busy fawning over your daughter, who will never amount to anything because she's a know-nothing whose academy graduation was a fluke. She's the last in her class while I was at the top of mine. Naruto's voice echoed in his mind, making Minato wince. It pained Minato that his son saw him as nothing more than the Hokage. By the gods, Naruto was his child, yet they were like strangers, at best, a shinobi and his leader. You dare use your position to stop me? I shouldn't be surprised, seeing as that's all you are to me. You are my Hokage, and nothing else. Naruto's taunt returned clearer and more stinging than when it was first spoken the night Minato had been forced to order his own son to remain. Memories of Kushina asking if Naruto would choose others over his family, the answer he'd given had nearly broken Minato, and he knew it had wounded Kushina just as deeply. Family? We are not that. He is my Hokage. I would not dare disobey his command. In that moment, Minato hated his sharp memory of how things had gone from bad to even worse. Minato, we have one opportunity. It hurts me so much that we had to plead with our son for it, but I also know that if the others hadn't been there, he would have outright refused, and who could blame him? Kushina's voice was frail, a sign that she was on the verge of crying again. If you had been there, you would have seen how he looked at me, Minato, like I was a disease that shouldn't exist. If Shizen hadn't been in the room with me, I truly doubt Naruto would have spoken to me civilly. I can't even imagine if he would have spoken to me at all. Kushina continued, tears now streaming down her face. We have wronged him so badly that I am astonished he hasn't sought revenge against us for all our neglect. If I were in his shoes, I would have. But he didn't. He worked hard for everything he has now, and it's a constant slap in my face that he's achieved so much, yet I knew nothing of it until now. I'm his mother, yet I was unfair to my son, my baby boy. I don't deserve to be a mother, and now I finally understand the looks I get in the marketplace, she said, looking up at a bewildered Minato. I hadn't thought about it at all. They've always been polite, but I could feel how they looked at me when I wasn't watching. Whenever I was out with Nuriko, the way they watched with disgust and pity, it was all because of my failure as a mother to my son. How could I have forgotten that I gave birth to 2 children, she cried out, and Minato looked as guilty as his wife. In a way, it was his fault too. Had he not favored his daughter, none of this would have happened. He wouldn't have lost his son and, likely, the true gifted child. There was no denying it. Naruto was skilled, smart, and his accomplishments alone proved how wrong Minato was for claiming Naruto was the child of the prophecy. But now that we're here, we can't just abandon Naruto to focus on Naruto. He gave us one chance, and so much could go wrong. If we lose that chance, we might lose our daughter as well. Kushina, we have to be careful. This isn't about the prophecy anymore, not really. This should be about winning back our son and bringing our family back together, Minato told her. Kushina had to take a moment to absorb what she had just been told. Of course, many things could go wrong before their son could genuinely forgive them, and Kushina doubted Naruto could truly forgive them, but she still had hope. Minato was also right that they couldn't neglect Naruto while trying to make things right with Naruto. If all their efforts failed, they would lose not only their son but Naruto as well. Kushina sighed. I don't care about that blasted prophecy anymore, Minato. It's the very reason our family broke in the first place. Foretold child or not, Naruto is our son regardless of what your summoning elders warned, Kushina said, her tone hardening as she stood. He is home, for now. I don't want to think about what the future will be if we fail. I will not let it happen, and you shouldn't either. You have much more to do than I do since you are two things to him, his father and his Hokage. I'm not blaming you, Minato, but if you fail and pull me down with you, I will walk out of this house and your life. And you will never see me or Naruto ever again. Kushina warned Minato before she exited his office. Minato sat there, a shiver running down his spine as his wife's threat sank in. He knew she was right and that he had more to atone for than she did. With that in mind, Minato had to come up with a plan for how to even approach his son. Just as Kushina said, prophecy or not, Naruto was his son, and he would do anything to make his family whole again. It had only been a week since he had come back to the Namikaze household. His friends had been there every day between their ranks and training. Suzuki griped about how annoying Sakura still was and how even more worthless Naruto had become after the reveal of Naruto's true strength. Shikamaru sighed and shared how Ino wouldn't stop talking about Naruto and how she was still in shock that he wasn't the person she had been made to believe. According to Shikamaru, Chuji was happy for everything Naruto had accomplished, which made Naruto feel good. Shino shrugged and briefly shared how Kiba had changed from the irritating genin he used to be. Whatever Korone and Sim had done to the boy, it had worked. And Niji had almost no complaints, except for how Rock Lee continued to challenge him whenever he got the chance. Tsunade and Orochimaru had come by during lunch to check on Naruto's recovery. Shizune had kept herself busy helping Kushina prepare Naruto's lunch. Irika mostly spent his lunch breaks with Naruto and everyone else. Anko and Ibiki had tasked him with bringing a bottle of the apple juice the blonde liked since they had work and couldn't join them. Ujo was still out on a mission, and Kakashi had been called to the Umbu HQ more often than before. You're healing faster than you were at the hospital, Naruto-kun. Keep it up, and you'll be able to move around before the month is over. Just remember, no Orochimaru stopped as Naruto cut him off. Using of chakra, no ki leakage, and absolutely no sudden and strenuous exercise. I know, Maruji-san. Naruto sighed in a gesture of forced acceptance, while the others laughed. Just making sure, the man said with a playful smirk before turning to Tsunade, and they both nodded and said their goodbyes before heading back to the hospital. Kushina then arrived with Minato and Shizune behind her, carrying trays of food for Naruto and everyone else. Irika immediately stood up and took the tray from the Hokage. They all sat down around the table while the couple sat on Naruto's bed and fed him. Tsunade Bahn said you were healing faster, Naruto. I'm happy, Kushina said as she put Naruto's tray in front of him. He gave a slight nod before picking up his fork and spoon. It was awkward, and Naruto had been wondering if he could really forgive them to some degree. The chance he had given them was actually because everyone else was there, and he couldn't just refuse them. Naruto was still cautious of them, and his gut feeling warned him that they were hiding something. Yes, they seemed to want to make up for the years of neglect, but nothing, and absolutely nothing, could make him forgive or simply forget so easily. He had been mentally and emotionally scarred for life. The couple tried their best to talk with Naruto and the others. They mentally took notes whenever they heard something about their son that they didn't already know. It still hurt, of course, that they had to learn it from others, but there was no other way. Also, much to Kushina and Minato's dismay, Naruto had chosen to have lunch and spend most of her day with Sakura and Ino. Their daughter had been more stubborn, and nothing they said could get the girl to make an effort to be with them and her own brother. Later that night, Kushina brought Naruto to Minato's office. If you're going to lecture me about Naruto, don't bother, Naruto said, fuming with her arms crossed. Naruto, why are you being so stubborn about spending time with Naruto? He is your twin brother, Kushina said, but Naruto didn't change her stance. The same brother that you've forgotten entirely? That brother? Naruto jabbed, knowing it was a low blow, even for her. Minato and Kushina looked angry. And why do you think we forgot? Who was it that demanded most, if not all of our time? Who was it that seemed to need to be showered with so much attention? Kushina shot back without thinking. So now it's my fault? Great. I wasn't the parent who chose one child over the other. You could have just said no to me. Said no? You have to be joking. Every time we tried to say no, you would throw a tantrum and cry as if we had hit you when we never did. Kushina countered. Don't blame me because you lost a son due to your parenting skills. Naruto lost herself, and Minato had had enough. That's enough. Naruto, you are grounded. You will not leave this house until I say so, except for D-rank missions. You will stay here, and I will cut off your allowance. You have become spoiled, but this is it. You seem to have forgotten that we are your parents and that we have given you everything you could ever ask for. Minato roared. Both women turned to look at him with fear. Minato was usually calm, but even the most patient of people had their limit. Naruto stomped out of the office and slammed the door, leaving her parents with their feelings. She had never been yelled at by them before, and now she was grounded with her allowance cut. She hated Naruto more than ever and wished he didn't exist. This is all your fault, she yelled when she got to Naruto's room. Naruto was reading when she burst in, and he raised a brow. What did I do now? As you can see, I'm stuck in this bed and haven't left it since I got here. What could I possibly have done from here? He asked, a sarcastic tone in his voice. If it weren't for you and your achievements, none of this would have happened, she told him angrily. Hey, you can't blame me for everything I've achieved. You should blame your father for sticking his nose in my business. I was doing just fine without him knowing until the day he demanded to see my files. It's not my fault he was hit with the harsh truth that he had no idea what I'd been doing. You were a big help, really. Your constant nagging and bothering him while he was working managed to distract him just enough that he didn't pay attention to what he was signing and stamping. Naruto told her with a smug look on his face. Did you know that if he hadn't found out about my jonin status, I would have been able to leave this house, and he wouldn't have had any idea until it was too late? Yes, if he hadn't messed with the way things were going, none of us would be in this situation. You would have remained their favorite and only child while I lived my life the way I wanted. By then, if they even noticed, I would be old enough that they wouldn't have power over me anymore. But until I turned 16, I'm stuck here, Naruto added, and Naruto found herself swallowing every word, despite how much she didn't want to. I have a question though. We both know you were trained even before we started the academy. But why is it that the training hasn't shown itself at all? You're still the dead last. Why? Naruto asked, which made Naruto turn red with embarrassment and rage. It was no secret that she had been trained, but Naruto was right. She was the dead last, and the training her dad and mom gave her didn't seem to have stuck. No answer? Well, you don't have to give one. With your tiny brain, the only things you'd be able to understand are shopping, gossiping, and stalking Sasuke. By the way, you have zero chance with him. He doesn't like you and won't ever give you the time of day, even if your father ordered him to. Heck, Hyuga Hinata has better chances than you, Ms. SPD, and Ms. Mind Invader. Naruto taunted, which finally snapped Naruto. She lunged forward, only to be trapped in midair. Did you really think I'm defenseless? This whole room is sealed so that if I am attacked, the person will be frozen in place until I release them. Remember the cake incident a few years ago? Think of it like that, but with a longer freezing time. Naruto explained as Naruto was terrified, realizing she was trapped until he let her go. And to her growing anxiety, her parents came in and saw her. What is going on here? Minato yelled, and Naruto gave him a blank stare. She came in and blamed me for causing you to ignore her and how I had apparently changed everything for her. In her rage, she tried to hurt me, and so she's frozen like that now. My room is sealed so that if I am attacked in my sleep, it won't happen because the aggressor will get caught just like she did, Naruto said, and with a one-handed seal, Naruto dropped to the solid floor with a grunt. Kushina looked furious as she grabbed her daughter. It seems that you really aren't ready to be a kunoichi. Had you been, you wouldn't have done this. I am putting you on indefinite suspension, and I will be personally reviewing you to see if you are truly fit to be a shinobi of this village. Attacking a superior, whether they are injured or not, outside of a sparring session, is a capital offense. And if you weren't my daughter, I would have you sent to TNI for punishment. Minato spoke with a serious tone that made Naruto swallow hard. Be grateful for this leniency, because it will not happen again, he added before grabbing Naruto's arm and taking off her hitai before walking out of the room. Kushina then said goodnight to Naruto and dragged Naruto out of the room. I am so disappointed in you, Naruto. You are our daughter, you should have known better. Did we not teach you anything? Did you disregard your father's position in this village? Kushina said as she opened the door to Naruto's room and put her daughter inside, before closing it and sealing it to make sure Naruto didn't try to escape. Meanwhile, Naruto was smirking and chuckling to himself at the situation his sister had gotten herself into. She was truly an idiot for what she had done. Did it not cross her mind that he was a jounin and she was a new genin? But then again, she had never shown any intelligence, so this really shouldn't have surprised Naruto. Not at all. A week after Naruto's suspension, Minato had brought Naruto to work with him to keep an eye on her. She was to remain within his sight and stay quiet. She could read a book or learn a jutsu if she wanted, but that was up to her. During the day, Kushina would spend her time with Naruto, asking questions about what else he enjoyed, what foods he didn't like, and about his sealing abilities. She shared that the art of sealing had always been an Uzumaki tradition and told Naruto how proud she was that he was so strong at it. Naruto, to be honest, had not expected that giving the Namikaze couple a chance would work out. Well, at least with the wife. Kushina Namikaze had been patient and very accepting whenever he answered her questions. She was very gentle and did her best to manage her daily chores and make time for Naruto without becoming exhausted. The only bad thing about sealing is that one wrong move with a storage-type seal is when you use too much chakra and a reverse sealing happens, Kushina said, and Naruto agreed. He remembered a time last year when he had taught Sasuke and Shino how to make their own storage scrolls. Both of them had gotten sucked into their scrolls, and Neji, Shikamaru, and Naruto had laughed about it for days. Kushina began teaching Naruto a few seals that only the Uzumaki clan knew. That decision alone helped her relationship with her son move forward from where it was. A week later, Naruto's healers cleared him for movement. He still couldn't do anything too strenuous or use much of his chakra or ki, but he was relieved to be up and about again. During the day, Naruto and Kushina continued their sealing lessons, breaking for lunch when Minato and Naruto returned home to join them. One day, as Naruto was on his way to lunch, he ran into Naruto and smirked. "Dearest sister, did you know that after a little research, you're the only shinobi in history to get suspended while still a genin? Most shinobi who get suspended are high-level Chuunin or Umbu operatives, never a genin. Congratulations, you're the first in the history of Konoha, and probably the 5 countries, he taunted as he walked past her. The words infuriated her, but she knew better than to yell and risk further punishment from harming him. Lunch was tense and uncomfortable as they all tried to pretend everything was fine. Minato wished he could pretend, while Kushina was doing her best to make it work. Naruto, meanwhile, remained quiet and detached, and Naruto silently seethed with frustration. After lunch, Naruto and Kushina would resume their lessons until 3 p.m. Then, Naruto would excuse himself and head to the small tea shop where Nanami and the other old ladies gathered every afternoon. The old ladies were happy to see Naruto healthy and mobile again, even though he wasn't yet cleared for ninja duties. He shared stories about the places he had seen, and in return, they told him about their younger days and travels. After an hour, Naruto would stop by the academy to help Irika with the children, who happily welcomed back their Naruto-sensei. By 5 p.m., he would go to the local bar where most of the Chuunin and jonin relaxed. They greeted him warmly, welcoming him back to the land of the living and walking. Many of the jonin teased him about being bedridden, and told him how Kakashi and Asuma wished they could get the same kind of paid vacation. Asuma didn't know Naruto well, but they had gotten along after a few games of shogi, with Naruto winning 3 out of 5 against the Sarutobi Jounin. By 6 p.m., either Kakashi, Yujao, Irika, Ibiki, or Anko would escort Naruto home just in time for dinner, where the charade would begin again. Kushina was becoming more and more aware of Naruto's likes and dislikes. She realized that what Naruto liked, Naruto often disliked. To compromise, Kushina started cooking half of the dishes that Naruto liked and the other half for Naruto. She also had to be careful to avoid making any dishes with seafood, since both Minato and Naruto were allergic and she didn't want to risk sending her husband or son to the hospital. In the evenings, Minato and Naruto would spend a few hours in Minato's study while Kushina tried to understand her daughter's hatred for Naruto. She genuinely couldn't see why Naruto hated Naruto so much. One evening, she knocked and entered her daughter's room. Naruto was reading on her bed inside. "Naruto, I think we need to talk. We just want to understand why you hate your brother so much," Kushina said, closing the door behind her. Naruto sighed, sat up, and looked out the window. "Ever since you and Dad started paying attention to him, you've been crying. Dad's different, too. He never used to get mad at me or punish me before. But since Naruto came back, you both have no time for me anymore. It's boring in Dad's office, and to think he suspended me from being a ninja." Naruto cried, her voice filled with frustration. Kushina sighed, realizing this was exactly what she should have expected. "Naruto, you have to understand. Your dad and I love you very much. But Naruto is also our son. We've realized that what we were doing was wrong, and we're trying to correct our mistakes. Naruto is your brother, and as far as I know, he hasn't done anything to you," Kushina said. "Nothing when you and Dad are around. Of course he'd behave when you're there. He's just trying to make me look bad." Naruto defended herself. "Just like how you tried to make Naruto look bad by saying all those mean things about him and how he was a dropout when he actually graduated," Kushina countered. Naruto instantly fell silent. She knew her words could come back to haunt her, but she didn't think it would be so soon. She huffed and crossed her arms. "How was I supposed to know he graduated? He was never around and always locked himself in his room. You and Dad didn't even know if he was around or not. You both always forgot about him, she pointed out, which began to irritate Kushina. That's why we're trying to fix our mistakes, Naruto. We truly neglected your brother, and now Minato and I have to face the consequences of our actions. But Naruto was gracious enough to give us one more chance. One chance to be a real family, like we were supposed to be, Kushina explained as best as she could, but it was clear from Naruto's face that she would never see Naruto as her brother. The distance between them felt like worlds apart, and nothing could ever bring them together. The warning Orochimaru had given them from the Snake Elders came back to Kushina's mind, and worry began to consume her. If Naruto was indeed the child of the prophecy the Toad Elders had told Minato and Jiraiya about, then the fate of the Great Five Countries would soon be at a tipping point. No matter how hard he tried, the guilt he felt would never truly disappear. Minato knew this as he went about his day in his office. He looked at the photos on his desk: Kushina, the twins as babies, Kushina and the twins sleeping peacefully, and himself holding the twins with a wide smile. But as he stood up, he saw the other photos behind him, all of them with Kushina, himself, and Naruto. No Naruto. Minato knew there was no one to blame but himself. It was his fault for being too self-reliant on prophecies. Now, his decisions from many years ago had come back to bite him hard. The world, as he knew it, was hanging in the balance, and he still hadn't even earned his son's favor. He knew his wife was doing a better job since she didn't have to leave the house every day. Minato had to admit, even if only to himself, that he would never be as favored as Kushina since he wasn't there as much as she was. This brought him to a sudden idea. Iraka-san, please cancel everything I have for the whole weekend. I'll be going home for lunch and will return on Monday, he said, not even waiting for the jonin to respond before flashing out of the office. Iraka sighed, rubbing his temple in annoyance. Just because the man was Hokage didn't mean he could skip out on work. The scarred man just shook his head and rescheduled the Hokage's appointments for next week, as it was clear the man wasn't going to be working all weekend. Naruto was reading a book in his room. His mother had gone out to shop for dinner. They had an early lunch so she could run her errands and get back early to spend an hour or two with him before preparing dinner. He was still confined to his bed, but he was getting better every day. It had been 3 weeks since he returned to the Hokage's manor, and both of his medics, Tsunade and Orochimaru, were pleased with his progress. By not using his chakra and getting plenty of rest, they told him he was healing faster than he did at the hospital. Naruto had snorted at that, explaining that staying there would have made his recovery longer, as it reminded him that he needed medical help due to his last mission, which could have been his last. He was so lost in his thoughts that he almost didn't hear the yondaime knock on his door. Naruto looked up from his book and blinked. Yes? Minato shifted nervously and sighed. I just came to see how you're doing today. I took the weekend off, too. I thought, why not use it to stay at home from time to time? It's not the end of the world, right? He joked, trying to ease the tension. The man didn't know how to act around his own son. He and his wife had missed so many years because of their foolish belief that focusing on the one who needed them most would be the right thing to do, since they thought Naruto was the prophecy child. Orochimaru's discovery that it wasn't Naruto, but Naruto, made all those years of neglect seem intentional and pointless. Plus, during those years, Naruto had a higher rank than Naruto, more skill, more intelligence, and the respect and admiration of his fellow shinobi. Minato didn't like to compare, but it was unavoidable. There was such a difference between the two that it was practically a sin to mistake Naruto for Naruto. I'm doing well, thank you. Orochimaru-sama and Tsunade Baa-chan are doing everything they can to get me back on my feet, Naruto said to the man he once considered his father. He had given them a chance, but he wasn't going to get his hopes up, because for some odd reason he felt they would fail, and that would be the end of it. He didn't usually give second chances to people who wronged him on the level the Namikaze couple had, but he had been pressured, so he had to suck it up and accept. I'm glad to hear that. You did a great job protecting Ibiki and Genma. Holding off your enemies alone at such a young age takes skill, talent, and experience to do it so well that you all returned alive, Minato praised Naruto, who gave him a silent nod of thanks. Is there anything else you need? Naruto asked politely, his tone speaking of indifference. I was wondering, if you don't mind, we could talk for a bit? You could tell me what you've been doing with Ibiki and the others. Kushina mentioned you both talk when she comes and spends time with you. Minato answered, praying his son would agree. Naruto looked at the man, assessing him for what seemed like a long time but was only a few seconds, before he nodded. I don't mind. It's not like I have anywhere to be right now, Naruto replied, knowing the man was trying, just like his wife. Minato looked relieved and went into the room. He pulled up a chair and sat next to his son's bed. So, what do you do at the TNI? I know it was on your file, but I wasn't able to read all of it. It was pretty thick and my attention span isn't that long, Minato said, chuckling in embarrassment and scratching the back of his head. Naruto rolled his eyes and shook his head. Well, normally, Anko starts the initial interrogation. She tries to get them to loosen up and gather as much information as she can before they either clam up or die from whatever injuries they already had, or from Anko. If they survive, then either Ibiki or I go next. Usually, it's Ibiki who goes, and I watch and note all the information he gathers. The few times I get to work instead of him. Naruto trailed off a bit and shrugged. Minato leaned forward, listening in silent anticipation of what his son would say next. Well, when I do get to work, I don't even have to touch them like Anko does. I'm more like Ibiki. I use whatever information Anko gathered and continue from there. I'm into mind games and puzzles. Ibiki taught me ways to gather information without ever having to make physical contact with the target. Just their appearance, habits, and even known history and abilities are enough to be used as weapons against them, Naruto said with a sigh. Minato leaned back and blinked like an owl. One Ibiki was scary enough for Konoha, but the man was training his son to be a mini Ibiki, with a dash of Anko? He couldn't help but wonder how long Konoha would last if that were to happen. Can you show me how you work? Minato asked hesitantly. Naruto turned to study him, a brow raised. Are you sure? It won't end well since you and I have more information between us than normal prisoners, Naruto warned him. Inside, of course, Naruto wouldn't miss a free chance at hitting the yandere where it would hurt, but if the man was asking for it, who was Naruto to say no? Minato nodded, swallowing hard. Naruto sighed and sat up straighter, silently analyzing the man before him. Namikaze Minato, Konoha's Yandere Hokage, also known as Konoha's Yellow Flash, was placed under Jiraiya of the Sunin's team. Met your wife, Uzumaki Kushina, at a very young age when she moved to Konoha just before the destruction of Whirlpool Country. Your best techniques would be your Rasengan, which took you 3 years to create, and your version of the Flying Thunder God technique, which came from the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama. Jiraiya once mentioned that you were a shrewd person, not one to do anything without reason. When you got a team, which was then named Team Minato, you tried to do right by them. You were given Heide Kakashi, son of Heite Sakumo, Konoha's White Fang, Uchiha Obito, and Nohara Rin. Naruto began, and Minato had already swallowed hard, especially at the mention of a few names. Of course, everything was going well, even if you had to fight off many of Kakashi's attackers because of what his father supposedly did. No one had the decency to remember that Konoha valued teamwork above all else, and that abandoning your teammate in their time of need would put you on the same level as trash. But despite that, Team Minato flourished, until the Battle of Konobe Bridge, where you transferred the mission to the newly turned jonin, Kakashi. Of course, that mission went south, which led to the death of Uchiha Obito and Kakashi gaining one of the eyes of the late Uchiha, he continued, and Minato paled as he was reminded of that mission. The morning was long, and both you and Kakashi blamed yourselves for Obito's death. And not too long after, Nohara Rin also died at the hand of Kakashi. One after another, Team Minato began to lose its members until all that was left were two. Fast forward a few years later, you were married and expecting children of your own. When Uzumaki Kushina gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, you were very pleased. However, what people didn't know was what kind of a father you truly are. Naruto's voice turned cold, and Minato now regretted allowing Naruto to show his skills alone. The great Yandere Hokage was not as great as he appeared in public, of course. He favored one child over the other to the point that the other child was all but forgotten. Both you and your wife poured everything you had into the one child who had not shown an ounce of ability despite years of training and private teaching. While this was happening, the forgotten child excelled. He made a name for himself and even rose through the ranks. What the public also didn't know was that the Hokage himself had no idea that his own son had done so, that his son had carved a name for himself, nearly surpassing the once great name of Namikaze Minato. Naruto's tone became harsh, and he narrowed his eyes at Minato, who now had tears running down his face. Naruto didn't show him any mercy and began tearing into him for everything, and he had given him permission to do so. So, tell me, Hokage-sama, why does a man such as yourself, who prides himself on undying loyalty to his family and friends, abandon his own flesh and blood for the other child? Why did you favor one over the other? How could you care for others when you couldn't even care for your own? Naruto asked, his eyes burning holes into the Hokage, who was pale and sweating. Had it been someone else, Minato was sure he wouldn't have reacted this way. But the one asking him and dissecting him was his own son, whom he had neglected, abandoned, and nearly forgotten. The prophecy. The word slipped out, and his eyes widened in horror as Naruto's glare intensified. What prophecy? Naruto's voice was a chillingly calm question. The prophecy. Jiraiya-sensei said, they said. Minato stammered, his mind racing for an explanation. What prophecy, Hokage-sama? What kind of prophecy would make you commit such a despicable act as to abandon your own child? Naruto's voice grew colder and sharper. Minato was caught in a painful conflict. He knew he shouldn't reveal it because he had been told that the prophecy he had believed meant Naruto was actually incorrect. The prophecy that had been his blind guide for so many years could have, and likely did, refer to Naruto, which was the very reason he and Kushina had favored Naruto over Naruto. You owe me, father. You owe me an acceptable reason for why my childhood was full of misery and being abandoned by the people who were supposed to be my family, Naruto declared, his voice full of rage. And with that final accusation, Minato's resolve shattered, and he began to weep. The prophecy of the toads, it spoke of a child, born into our family who would bring about never-before-seen power, that would usher in a new age for this world. We believed it was Naruto, so we did everything we could to train her, but now, he trailed off, sobbing. Naruto showed no sign of being impressed. In fact, he looked absolutely furious. So, a so-called prophecy was the reason for my suffering, a prophecy that could have meant something else entirely. A prophecy that you are now saying may not even be about that goddamn failure, Naruto shot back. Minato dropped to his knees and reached out for Naruto's hands. I'm so sorry, he pleaded, though he knew his apology was useless as Naruto pulled away. You disgust me. A man hailed for his wisdom should have known better than to put his faith in something as flimsy as a prophecy. I hope you now see how foolish you have been, now that you are face to face with the consequences of your actions concerning this prophecy. Naruto stated, his expression blank and cold. Minato tried to cling to Naruto, but Naruto kept pulling away from his grasp. No, please, Naruto, I'm so sorry, I'm truly so sorry, he cried. Consider your one chance gone, Hokage-sama. Enjoy the results of your so-called prophecy. Naruto told him, pushing the man off him and flaring his chakra to call for his chosen family, knowing that there was always someone nearby.